morning, everybody. Good morning. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. All right. Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. Lots to go over. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited because one, we're answering a great question from chat today, which I love. Two, we're going over some 4B stuff, which I'm excited about. I am just really enjoying diving into this bubble that I really am closer to than the trad wives, but farther than I could even imagine as a queer person. So I just feel like I'm learning so much about straight women right now. I just feel like I'm educating myself in the straights, and also just a reminder of like how much they truly are suffering, which is so interesting. And then there was this video going kind of virally, not really. I mean, the video itself doesn't have a lot of views, but people have been really commenting on it. And Hassan Piker was in an interview, and they asked about ethics and the ethics and morals of stealing, which I love that topic. Like, I'm a big fan of, I mean, you know, this is a philosophy channel, and I love ethics, and I love this question. And I think it's so interesting. Like, is it unethical to steal from the rich? That is a great question, Robin Hood. Thank you for asking. So we're going to talk about that today as well. Before I get into that, once again, just want to thank everybody for watching my commentary channel, Bert Simon. You can just put Bert Simon into YouTube and my commentary channel will come up. I recently just posted a video about veganism, if you want to go ahead and check that out. It's being very well received, which I appreciate so much. And I really enjoyed making it. Like, I really feel like here, let me pull it up for you. I feel like I really did a good one. Look at me. Look how cute this thumbnail is too. Look at this doggo and this cow. Okay, there you go. So if you guys want to go see it, I'll link it in the chat.
And you should be vegan.
Let me pull it up. Here you go. I'll share it in the chat. Please go check it out. Like it, hype it. You know, it really makes a difference. It really does. Enjoy. Okay, now, with that said, Chad said I was just watching your last video. This is my first time joining Brittany, first time live. I'm joining. So excited to be here. Subscribed. Welcome. You know, welcome. Welcome to all the new people. Honestly, I know a lot of new people have joined recently. Happy to have you here. If you have questions asked, this is a philosophy channel. We like a good question. You know, and that's really why I'm excited to go over this first comment today. So over on the member side of things, so you guys know that I make members only content. Mondays we do streams, and then I try to post a video at least once a month or a series or something. So on my member stream that I did, I talked about loneliness, and somebody left me a comment, and we should talk about it. So the comment says, at this timestamp here, which I appreciate. Guys, please leave timestamps, because sometimes people write comments in my comment section. I just have no idea what you're referencing. Leaving a timestamp really helps. So I love this. Here it seems to me like you're saying that people only feel lonely because of this lack of acceptance, but I know you don't make prescriptions, so I wanted to clarify. Do you mean this as in people are only ever lonely because of this relationship to self, or that you specifically only felt lonely because you had this sort of relationship to yourself? So let's go ahead and watch the timestamp. So here is the video. Okay. And I believe I might have even have clipped this section for, if I'm not mistaken, for my clip yesterday, but either way, let's watch this section again. This is a look. They're a stand-up comedian, and I would argue a little bit of a philosopher, really, and they are non-binary, and they're talking about, the context of this clip is that they're talking about how their friends are their relationships. Okay, so here we go. I'm unpausing. 1, 2, 3.
We're taking vacations together. We're making life plans together. We're sharing resources. And what that's meant for me is that I never have to fear being alone. My friends are my lovers.
Okay, so I don't follow this script, because for me, I don't fear being alone, even if I was. I don't get lonely, because loneliness is a lack of acceptance that you're like a animal on the planet. In a sense, it's a lack of acceptance that you have no harmony within yourself in relation to others. Like, how can I be lonely when trees exist? How can I be lonely when the grass exists? How can I be lonely when there's air around me? Like, from a philosophy perspective, like loneliness is a construct, I think in many ways, but also it's something that you have to have a deeper relationship with your biological experience to overcome, because I'm not entitled to community. I'm not entitled to not being lonely. It is my job as a community member to build a community in which I am not lonely. And so when we go through the world and go like, hey, I'm lonely, I go, yeah, let's talk about that. It's not that the experience of loneliness you're having isn't real. It's very real. It's the fact of why you're having it that we have to have a conversation about, right? So you can have all kinds of relationship structures, all kinds of ways. I know friends who buy houses together. I know people who get married. I think dedicating your life to being single, which is this 4B movement's. Okay, I'm going to pause. Here's present Brittany talking now. Okay, so that was past Brittany. What I would like to add to this conversation is that loneliness is a symptom. It's not it's a reaction to something. So you are lonely. You are experiencing loneliness. Loneliness is real. In psychology today, they say loneliness is defined as though our need to connect is innate, many of us frequently feel alone. Loneliness is a state of distress and or discomfort that results when one perceives a gap between one's desires for social connection and actual experiences of it. Even some people who are surrounded by others throughout the day or are in long-lasting marriages still experience a deep and pervasive loneliness. Research suggests that loneliness poses serious threats to well-being as well as long-term physical health. So every person has a relationship with loneliness. We've all been lonely. Some of us are lonely right now, okay? Each person who experiences lonely falls into a different category. I was the category mentioned here, constantly surrounded by people, but feeling deeply lonely, deeply alone in the world. I mean, I was definitely the girl who was always at social events in a crowded room, and I would feel like alone in a deep way. Now, I think autism plays a deep role in this as well. And what significantly changed for me, this might not work for you, is what significantly changed for me was after therapy. I did DBT, and I had a realization, along with philosophy, of course, that I was alone in a crowded room because I wasn't actually living in the most present. I mean, I would be surrounded by loved ones and family and friends, but I'd be like in a fantasy land of how this day could get better, or what if this really a magical, amazing social situation happened and I could write this down in the books as something significant. Maybe then I'd feel less lonely. Or maybe if the world saw me for exactly who I was, I'd feel less lonely. And what therapy gave me was a tool to recognize that what I had was good, if not great, and the way that people saw me was still amazing. Because I had long-term best friends, I had relationships, I had a social life, I had all of these things. And what I was struggling with was, well, then why aren't I happy? Why isn't it magical? You know, why did I make this much money and I'm still miserable? And there's a lot of things that go into this, right? So when I think of loneliness, I think of it as a symptom of something. So I'm not making a prescription to say that your loneliness isn't, your loneliness only exists like my loneliness. I'm saying that your loneliness is a symptom of something. Maybe you have a lifelong depression and this loneliness and depression is a part of just like your chemical makeup. Or maybe you're lonely because of you're physically literally alone, right? Maybe you're an only child and you have no cousins and your parents died and they never socialized you, so you have no friends, and maybe that's something you know what I mean? So the question is, for me, I'm a solver, right? I'm a Taurus. Hello, Taurus season has started, girls. I'm a Taurus. I think about, okay, why is this happening? Where's the root of the problem? How did I get here? Why do I feel lonely? And then that helps solve the loneliness. So when people call me or tell me I'm lonely, the question is why? And this plays into, I think, this conversation about 4B. I think it plays into this conversation about needing to get married and partnered, because I do think a lot of people who feel lonely think they're going to feel less lonely in a marriage. But like even Psychology Today says, or like you've probably known in your own life, being married doesn't change the loneliness factor. You can be married and lonely, you know? So that's the problem. Is like, well, if I can be married and lonely, if I can be surrounded by friends and lonely, something's going on. So we got to figure out what it is. That's it. Okay. So, okay, let me read chat. Chat said, ooh, hi from Southern Africa. Love that. Hello, shout out. Chat says, I always appreciate you saying when President Brittany is talking, when I'm cooking and watching. I figured, you're welcome. I figured. Let's see. Chat said, let's say I'm kind of lonely right now. I just wish I had a consistent friend I could trust. Yeah, like that's, see, there you go. So now your brain has decided, oh, if I just had a friend I could trust. But why don't you have a friend you can trust is my next question. Because you would have to be in such an interesting, specific, isolated situation for there not to be one person you can trust. There are factors at play here, right? Look at the male loneliness epidemic. Look at men who are like, I'm so lonely. And then when you watch the interviews of the incels, they're literally unbearable. And then you're sitting there like, yeah, you're lonely because you're unbearable. So then the question is like, am I unbearable? Like, is that the loneliness? Or no, were you also neglected as a child? Were these incel men who are often autistic also neglected by their parents, right? So the question is, I would be concerned. If I was an adult in the world and I had zero friends, I would be like, this is a state of emergency. This is how I felt when I lost my job. And I was like, this is a state of emergency. Like, what is the sign? Like, what has to happen? This is the philosophical part of life. This is the introspection. What has to happen in your life for any of us to realize this is a state of emergency? Because this is what I think is missing in a lot of the ways that I talk to adults. And I'm like, you have no sense of urgency. There's no fire under your butt. Like, hello, ma'am, your child has been in the same diaper for 3 days. Hello, you are late on every credit card bill. Hello, your credit is 400. We are in a state of emergency, you know? So that's that's what I want you to figure out for you. Like, what is it going to take for you to realize shit is bad? And that's what it was for me. Like, for me, losing my job was like, I don't lose jobs. Like, something is wrong. So I got my butt into therapy right away. Now, I still had to go through a few therapists before I found one that helped me. And I still had to do philosophical work to really ask myself, why do I wake up every day? Right? So all of these things, I think, play a role. I know so many, listen, one of the most interesting things about cheaters is some of them are very lonely. This doesn't justify the cheating. The question is, why am I so lonely that I think cheating is better? I've met women who sleep with married men because they are so lonely that this married man makes them feel alive for the first time in their life. And I'm telling you right now, you can't be sleeping with married men. But there's a reason you're so lonely that you're justifying it. Do you get what I'm saying? This is a state of emergency. You're sleeping with married men. You're cheating on your spouse. State of emergency. And the fact that you don't know that, the fact that you are willing to even ignore it is insane to me. State of emergency. Okay, this is why a midlife crisis is a state of emergency. Excuse me, you're 55 sleeping with a 19-year-old? State of emergency. You know what I mean? Like, this is bad. You're getting a Ferrari you can't afford. This is bad. You know what I mean? So, again, when we have these conversations, we have to recognize, like, when are we allowed to say something bad is happening? Okay, let me scroll up. Let me see. Chad says, I'm so curious what your moon and rising sign is. You know what's crazy? One of my friends who is astrology girly, like, she and I went over this whole thing, but I don't remember what any of it means. So she and I talked about maybe doing a collab one day where we showed that or did a stream. We might do a astrology stream for my birthday. Maybe I can ask her if she's free and we could do an astrology stream for my birthday. And because it's coming up soon, I try to do like a, something kind of cutesy. Last year's was crazy, but like this year's might be fun and chill. But anyways, okay. Chad says, on the subject of loneliness, I wonder if Brittany has seen DTF, Street Louis, and what her thoughts are. St. Louis? Oh, it's not Street Louis. St. Louis? DTF, St. Louis. St. Louis? St. Louis. I don't know who this is. DTF. Let me see. Oh, it's a show. It's a show. St. Louis. St. Louis. Ooh, with Linda Cardellini. Oh, David Harbour. Okay, let me see. No, I haven't seen this. He's gross. No, I haven't seen this. I wonder if it's any good. I'm sure it's great. Let's see. Chet says, I have almost no friends or family, so I wonder if I can stop feeling so lonely before finding more people to be around. Only child, abusive family, many mental illnesses, and autism. Yeah, I think that if I was there, so okay, then... Okay, I'm trying to think I've never had this experience, so forgive me. I really have been very privileged in this way. I imagine if I was alone in the world physically, like I try to do this meditation practice where I imagine all my friends and family dying. I used to believe that if every close person to me died, I would kill myself. But then something happened. I obviously did more introspection work, more meditation. I realized, like, why would I kill myself if everybody died? When there's like 8 other billion people on the planet. Like, how does that make sense? And then I realized, okay, Brittany, you have to be in charge of your life. You have to be embodied in your most present life. So, because this happens, guys, there are Palestinian families losing like 90% of their family in one Israeli attack. This isn't just a hypothetical for some people. It's really happening. So, when we think about how real it is for people, you have to process that, like, these people's lives are still valuable. They still get to wake up every day and say, I deserve to have a good life. Okay? I deserve to, wake up and get my hair done or enjoy my life or get a nice car or eat good food. Like, this isn't a hypothetical. This is real for people. So, when I had that realization that I used to really believe that should everyone close to me die, that would be the end of my existence, I neglected to recognize the fact that I existed in a really profound way, in the sense that there's definitely, you can't be replaced, right? So that's how I would look at it. I would look at it like a reminder that it is happening. This is someone's life. And ultimately, I would never tell that person to kill themselves. Like, I would never say your life is meaningless because something tragic happened. And something tragic did happen, right? Like, the fact that some of us are reaching adulthood with no connection, no community, that is a tragedy. How do we save ourselves from a tragedy? How do we rewrite our history and our story and change our life? And that's what, when you're ready, I want you to be in the front seat. I give people the idea it's a train. This is how I always imagine it, right? Let me draw it for you. Because I think this is important. So, okay, here's a train track, okay? And there's this train. Okay, this is a really bad train, but it's a train. Okay, just to stay with me here. Here, I'll put like little wheels or something. There's a little train. Okay, doesn't make sense, but here's a little smoke coming out of the train. I don't know what a train looks like. Okay, you have to decide where you're going to be in the train. Are you going to be driving the train? Are you going to be a passenger in the train? Okay, are you going to, are you going to be hanging on to the edge? Maybe you're sitting on the roof. Okay, are you going to be like in the train? Here, let me draw it this way. Okay, are you going to be on the roof, in the driver's seat? In the back of the car, hanging on for dear life? Because the train is going forward whether you know it or not. Well, I guess sometimes it could stay stagnant, I suppose, right? But ultimately, your train is also going to wave or go in different directions. The question is, when are you going to get in the front seat and drive this train home? Okay? Now, sometimes, and I always say this, like, imagine there's like a train stop. Let's say here, there's like a little flag, and this is a train stop. Maybe you're outside of your train watching it go by. Woo. You know what I mean? The point is like, you don't want to be outside of your train. You don't want to be hanging on for dear life. You don't want to be on the roof, and you don't want to be a passenger. You want to be driving the goddamn train. Okay? And the train is you, your life, your most embodied life. And so when we experience loneliness, it's an opportunity to say, who am I and why? Right? And this is what it is for me. This is how I see it, right? Okay, let me read comments. Let me scroll up. Just that I really appreciate your analysis, point of view. I also have a couple of friends in Palestine, so that's a great comparison for me to understand too. There you go. Free Palestine. Let's see. Okay, let me see. Chad said, I used to believe I would die by suicide if my loved ones were gone. My sense of self was incredibly defined by my relationships. Exactly. Right? Chad says, those who cannot abide themselves will always feel the pull of loneliness. There you go. Chad says, oh my gosh, yes, it's a hyperfixation. I would love that stream. Okay, girl, the astrology stream, I'll see if I can make it happen. Chad said, Brit is not a true autist. I am not a trained autist. I have not been a trained girly ever. I know. Let's see. Chad says, do you have any advice for someone who wants to build in-person community, particularly for fellow queer people while living in the Bible Belt, like crafting or book clubs? Okay. So I, over the course of my life, have had many physical communities, many. And they all usually implode for multiple reasons. One, the toxicity and drama is too much. Two, I outgrow the bubbles or you outgrow the community. Three, people's lives go in different directions. I was just catching up with one of my friends from Seattle, and they and I used to be like, kind of somebody in the community. Like we were, we weren't like, if this was high school, we weren't like the popular kids, but we were like we were kind of somebody, right? And we joke that if we went back to the community now, they'd be like, who are you? Who even is this? And we kind of laugh about it because we left. Like COVID happened and they stopped going to dungeons and they stopped hanging out with people physically. And the new generation came in and the older generation got replaced. So, you know, there are people, it's not even about age, it's about new older generation, like the new generation, there are people in the community who never leave, you know, like they're there for 30 years, same dungeon, same community, never left, right? There are some of us who, like, if you leave for like a year and come back, some people will remember you, but also there might just be a lot of new people. So it is kind of like one of those things where you sort of have to accept that the moment you leave a physical community, it will change. Even my Discord, oh my God, my Discord had that sensation. I always think of my Discord as a coffee shop. One time, a few times, I guess, it changes every few years, the Discord. It gets completely revamped, basically brand new people. Sometimes some of the oldies stay, it just depends. And one time, one of the past people, like from 5 years ago or something, came back and they were trying to it felt like that feeling of like trying to re-enter a community that had so significantly changed. And I think they did leave eventually. They probably had the realization of like, oh, I don't belong here anymore. But they brought that old energy in and I was like, no. It's like as if you're it's like as if the club became vegan and you brought a bunch of steak to the barbecue and you're like, but this is always what we did before. Yeah, but we're vegan now. So do you know what I mean? Yeah. Hello, fellow youths. That's what it felt like. Like, hello, fellow. You know, it's exactly the meme. And it's like no shade to this person. They just didn't realize that time had gone by. Even if they hadn't changed, the world had. And this is why I say, you know, it's interesting when people try to bring old energy into new places or they try to recreate the feeling they had before. It's like, no, like life is different now. I've changed, right? So this is the part of community in person that's really difficult. So if you're going to be a community staple, be a community staple. Decide, are you going to run the events and you're going to be the factor? So I am the continuous factor in my communities. When I build Discord communities, I am the leader. I am the person making it happen. And no matter who is new to my audience or if my old audience stays, or I am the same. It's like being a high school teacher. You're still the teacher, even if there's a new class every season, right? So are you going to play the teacher role or are you one of the students? Because if you're one of the students, then the community will change. You will leave. You'll come back. What is your dedication and commitment to the physical space? And that's really, you got to play to your strength. Don't overdo it. Pick something that's wise for you. Pick something that's good for you and healthy for you. But yeah, I find that physical spaces, it really depends on who's leading them. And it really depends on how consistent they will be. I've had people say, you know, Brittany, I outgrew your content. And I'm like, that's good. Like, that's good. Like, outgrow my content, right? Or maybe this content isn't for you, or maybe the Discord isn't for you anymore, but I have to stay because I'm doing something here, right? I can't come with you. Sometimes people have said to me like, oh, I wish you could make content for where I'm at so I can stay with you. And I was like, but that's the thing. I'm doing something here. Right. And so that's the thing that everyone has to recognize is everyone is at a different stage of their journey. So, you know, physical communities are possible. You just got to figure out what role you're playing. Okay. Hopefully I answered that question. Let me scroll up. Let's see. Chat said, I guess for me, I live in a very red state, in a very red town. So I don't really want to hang out with a bunch of Trump supporters, but loneliness doesn't bother me anymore. That's also very important. Like, I personally always move somewhere where I have at least one friend. So when I lived in Arizona, you know, when I moved to Croatia, which by the way, we're going to talk about a little bit about this today. I did not leave my family to live with a man. I realized that some people uproot their whole life to go live with a man because he won't compromise. My partner and I sat down and made a pros and cons list about which country we would live in. Were they going to immigrate to the US or was I going to immigrate to Croatia? Like, I did not uproot my whole life to go live with a man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, now I'm learning so much about this movement, this women's movement, that I'm a part of a different woman. This is so weird because like it's all women's movements. It's just different ones. So I'm a part of a queer movement more than this one. So, when I was now that I'm in Croatia, people always ask, like, don't you get lonely? Like, aren't you sick of your partner being your only friend? This has never been different for me. When I lived in Arizona, I lived in Trump County. I mean, Trump flags everywhere. I was not socializing with the neighbors. I had my siblings. They were my friends, right? When I lived in Seattle, I had my friends, but if everybody moved away, which a lot of people did, I always had one or two friends, right? Like for Brittany, I don't need a whole community. I need one or two friends that are my close friends. And then I go search for communities that I have casual friendships with because I'm very good at casual friendships. I'm more than happy to show up to a coffee event where I'm not very deeply close to everybody, but it's a fun weekly book club or something. I'm more than happy to do that. I don't do it in Croatia for multiple reasons. One, I don't want to be asked too many questions. And two, I don't know the language yet, but don't worry about that. I will learn it. And three, I'm busy with this. I'm busy. I'm working 6 days a week. I have a community. I'm catching up with friends as much as I can. Like I'm busy, right? So, you have to think about that idea. Like it's not wrong that you live in a Trump county. This is why I love the internet because I'm not going to socialize with a bunch of Trumpers either, right? I agree with you. So it's like, I'm going to build an online community so people who are stuck in these positions have a community to hang out with. You know what I mean? That's why I love the internet because like some of us don't have the privilege of moving. Some of us don't have the privilege of knowing how to even move so I hear you on that, right? Chet says Brittany seems to be the how the human experience works type of autistic. Exactly, girl. You know it. You know it. Ooh, Chet says, side note, my friend is moving to Seattle this month. I'm excited for her. Girl, I miss the Pacific Northwest every day. Every day, Every day. Chet says, what the heck are the benefits of being a queer immigrant in the States? If anyone is knocking you for making that choice, I'm having a hard time grasping. Well, I think they're reasonably like pretty. I think there's two sides. Some people will do this thing where I think they're wounded. I think they're scared. I think the people who've been critical, like, oh, you ran away, you're not even here to fight. First, I moved before Trump was elected, right? So we didn't even know he was going to be president. Okay. Second, I moved because the US was out of our budget and out of our ability to move there, right? Like we couldn't take the risk. The risk wasn't worth it to us. It was money we didn't have. And every immigration lawyer we talked to told us that we basically had to have my partner be there illegally just for a day to file paperwork. And I said, I'm so uncomfortable with this. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to put my partner in danger of being like in trouble. Like I'm not doing this. And we didn't have to do this. My partner is an EU citizen, which means we were able to, within our budget and within our risk profile, move to Croatia. When I met his parents in November, I came to Croatia. I always reference November. It's not like last November. I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense out of context. When I met his parents, at the time, we thought we were moving to the United States. I said, are you upset that I'm taking your son away from you? And my in-laws were like, no. Like, you guys are grown-ups. You can do whatever you want. I was like, dope. They were very supportive. And then once we started talking to immigration lawyers, we were like, oh, we can't do this. We can't afford it. It was too much money. And it wasn't within our risk profile. So then we moved to Croatia, where I was accepted, where they took my visa. They took my passport. They said, yeah, you can come here. And I said, cool. And that's what we did. So when we have conversations about like, oh, you're so lucky you got to leave. No matter who was president, we would have made this decision. Does that make sense? Like it wouldn't have mattered who was president. We couldn't afford to move to the US. I couldn't afford to do the US visa process. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe it would have been different if we had the money. Maybe it would have been different if our risk profile was different, but we did what was best for us in the moment. And we did it as a team. Do you know what I'm saying? So sometimes I really think people just like attach all of this narrative like, oh, Brittany moved countries to be with a man. Oh my God, Brittany moved countries to be with someone she just met. And I'm like, you guys are like, the internet is such a dramatic place because everyone only thinks their version of reality is the only way to see the world, right? Like they're not thinking about all the nuances. And also, yeah, I am an outspoken anti-Trumper. I am also like in a queer gender deconstructed relationship. I am also a queer person openly. I mean, just having the flag on my video, I can't tell you how, if you don't read my comments, there are certain videos that like every comment is like, oh, I saw the flag and I knew, I saw the flag and I knew that fucking flag, that flag, you know? So it's just like, I hear you and I get it. And listen, if I wasn't married, I'd be back in the US too, girl, because I get you. If I didn't have, because again, well, the country is going through what it's going through. We also have lives that we're living. So it's kind of one of those things. Like sometimes my family would be like, oh, would your in-laws ever move to America? The idea that my in-laws would leave their most beautiful, perfect life to live in America is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. Americans are so fucking like arrogant to think that anybody would want to live there, given the state of things. The fact that my family, even at the time, was asking that is so funny to me. Because like, why would they leave every benefit of living? You know what I'm saying? Like, my in-laws have never even been to the US. My partner had never even been to the US until he came to see me, because why would he go there? Like, again, America, like the US really thinks everybody wants to go there. And by the way, as Americans, you can give up your passport and live somewhere else. Like as US citizens, you can keep it or you can move. But like, you can be an immigrant too. I think sometimes US people do this thing too, where they're like, I don't have the privilege to be an immigrant. Well, neither do the immigrants come. Immigrate, girl. So it's kind of interesting that here I am, I'm immigrating. Like I am immigrating, right? I am moving. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like we're building a life here. You know, if my partner dies, that might change things because I might move back to America where my family is or one of my friends are. But like, we're in the process of our life is going to be here. You know what I'm saying? So again, I just think like people aren't thinking about that thing. It's not like we're going to have a house in the US and a house here. You know what I mean? This is where our house will be. If we can ever afford it one day, maybe, fingers crossed. And it would be like an apartment because that's what houses usually are here. So again, there's like this, I don't know what people are thinking, right? When they have these opinions. But again, I'm pro immigration. If you want to immigrate, do it. You know what I mean? Be a part of the community there. And look, one day, once I have the language down, maybe I'll join a book club. When I have the language down and if I can even read like books in Croatian and like a real way, because speaking the language and reading the language, you know what I mean? But if I can like really comprehend Croatian so good that I can like join a book club, I would probably do that. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm not there yet. So I'm getting ready for it. You know what I mean? Who knows what my future could be? Maybe I'll join a feminist group here. Maybe I'll join a queer group because Pride here is still a protest. Like it's always a protest, but Pride here is actually like, it's still very controversial. So like, maybe I'll go to Pride parades. Maybe you'll see me on the Capitol. You know, but I have to become a citizen. I got to integrate first. I'm still on a visa. You know what I mean? I respect the rule of law here. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So when we think about loneliness, just to wrap up this segment, loneliness is a symptom of something else happening. You're not bad because you're lonely. We've all been lonely. And look, there is a chance I will be lonely again. But then it is my job to say, uh-oh, girl, are we experiencing loneliness? Recalibrate. Like recalibrate. Okay. I have deeply missed my family at certain points of this transition of I've now almost been here 3 years. There have been points where I have like so deeply missed my sister's hugs and I have cried about it, but that wasn't an experience of loneliness. That was an experience of missing somebody you love. So my sister came and visited me and I got 10 days worth of hugs. So it all worked out. But you know what I'm saying? Like that wasn't loneliness. I'm not lonely. I miss people, which is different. Okay. So, know the difference. Know that it's okay. You're not a bad person if you're experiencing loneliness. All of us forever will experience moments of loneliness. Just know that it is a symptom of something and we can figure out why it's happening. And then why it's happening, we'll tell you what to do with it. And maybe look, there will be some depression, mental health uniqueness that maybe even will cause lifelong loneliness, as long as you know what it is. It's kind of like how I think about chronic pain. Like I have this background chronic pain from my fibromyalgia that's always there. It used to be the only thing I could focus on. And now that I know what it is, it can move into the background of my life. And so that's what it is too, is some of us have chronic health issues where we can never eradicate it. We can just move it into the background of our life. You know what I mean? But experience it, move through it, and know that it's okay to be lonely. You're not a bad person because you're lonely, right? Annie, welcome to memberships. Happy to have you here. Yeah, Chad said, let your loneliness orient you towards solving the problem. Exactly. Let all of these data points guide you into knowing yourself more. Let every piece of information you get about yourself, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm lonely, I'm all these things. Those are all data points to say, oh, like, oh, I am lonely. And that's a part of looking in the mirror too, is to admit out loud, like, damn, I'm lonely. I remember when I was first really missing my family, I looked at my partner and I was really emotional. I was like crying. And I said, I'm so sorry, but like, I miss my sister. Like, I miss my sister and I'm very upset how much I miss her. Like, I'm very upset about how much I miss my family and my besties. Like, I'm very upset. And my partner was like, that makes sense. Like, you've been away from them for a while now. And I was just like, and I was like really feeling like I just remember being so sad. And then, I said, we got to do something. Like, we got to do something. Like, I got to fix this right now. Like, it's not enough to call them on the phone. Like, I got to do something. That's why, you know, those videos, you know what videos make me cry the hardest is immigrant videos where people have been separated because of paperwork for 20 years. Imagine not hugging your mother for 20 years. You know, imagine not hugging your brother for 20 years. Like, those videos always make me feel like I will ugly cry. Like, imagine not being able because of fucking immigration paperwork. This is why I'm open borders. This is why I'm open borders. Why should family members not be able to see each other because of some goddamn paperwork? What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, this is why I say, like, fuck your borders, fuck your rules. Like, yes, there should be structure, but not like this. Not like this, where I can't see my loved ones because of some fucking paperwork. Absolutely not. This is why I'm saying humanity is so gross. We're so anti our own humanity that we would let paperwork get in the way of not seeing loved ones. That's gross. That's so gross. You know what I mean? All right. 2-minute break. We'll come back. This is going to be a longer segment, so I need a 2-second break. And then we'll get into this segment about 4B and women, because the girls have responded, not to me, to 4B Forever. And it's interesting, and I'm learning so much, and I've just been enjoying the fuck out of this conversation. You can tell this is my hyper focus right now. I'm just like so focused on this topic. I'm so interested in how different bubbles of women react to patriarchy. It's so interesting, and I love learning about it. So let's take a 2-minute break, and then we'll talk about it, okay? For those who have recently complimented the stream music, it's Elvin. She's a creative. She's a musician. She's amazing. She has a YouTube channel. She has a Spotify account. It's linked in my description. Her name is Elvin, and you can learn more about her. Links in the description. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Pausing music, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let me do this. How do I want to do this? La 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 la. Da da da. What did I want to say? Fuck. Hold on, I had a thought. And then I lost the thought. Oh, I remember what it was. I've been learning so much about the girlies. I realized like a lot of their content, they don't always share their life. And because they're not sharing their life, it's interesting becoming a fan of somebody you know nothing about. You know, like I always talk about myself because I want you to attach it to something real. I always want to know about real people's lives. What are you doing in your life? Like, what are your values? I love when people talk about their marriages, like their life, in an appropriate and non-oversharing way. So it is so interesting when I've been watching some of these girls like Therese. Okay, we're going to talk about Therese today. And there are things about Therese I did not know. I did not know. I was like, oh, like I've been watching this woman and now I'm like, oh, like I'm learning to see people differently based off of their content, but I'm like, oh, like you just learn things about people. So I'm excited to go over it today. So 4B Forever made this video initially, right? You probably remember her from the last few days, last week. This particular video, I'll just play a few seconds of it.
Listen to their content and then they say, well, I am married, then women will feel like, oh, there's still hope. I can still find a good man out there, right? And then men will say like, yeah, she hates on men, but like she can't hate them too much because she's got one herself. And so I do think that the women who are single are not going to be able to grow as big as on this platform or any social media platform as the women who are in relationships with men.
Okay, so honestly, I didn't even know Mel was married. I didn't even really know that Therese had a man. I did not know, like I follow women because I like them. So the fact that this is and can be true for a lot of people that you being partnered is a validation seeking behavior, it was just true. It's also true that just women in general struggle to get big without also engaging in capitalism directly. So I want to give some credit to 4B Forever in being realistic about that fact. And also because she doesn't show her face or have a specific brand, I also think that it's kind of weird coming from her because I can't tell if she's serious about becoming a creator, right? But with that said, Lisa did make a response to this video, but it's 20 minutes long. So first we're going to go to Therese, who also made a 2-minute response to 4B's initial statement of none of you are addressing what I actually said. Married women are nationally positioned as leaders, given credibility, and so on. So Therese has an opinion, and we're going to start with her first.
Did address your point. When she talked about hierarchy, she was addressing this very point. Married women only have privilege in the decentering men movement if we give it to them. If we put them above other content creators who are in the same space just by virtue of them being married. That's what the whole hierarchy discussion was about. And both Hope Peddler and Priscilla addressed this by using the fact that married women have privilege in patriarchy to justify why they should not be involved in the decenter men movement. You're still embracing hierarchy. And you're assuming that women in the decenter men movement will be embracing it as well. And they might. And if they do, you address it because that is part of decolonizing the mind. By your logic, white women shouldn't be able to be involved in the decenter men movement. By that logic, white women shouldn't be allowed to be feminists. White women are also naturally positioned as leaders, given more credibility and given more privilege due to their race. So because all these systems are interconnected, as Priscilla said, does that mean that white women shouldn't be able to be involved in the decenter men movement? By policing who gets a voice and who doesn't in the decentering men movement, it's giving white woman nonsense. It's giving Karen. Show me of these content creators we're talking about, which one of these married women has dismissed the concerns of single women, and then we'll talk. But I guarantee you, Mel and YB Edit, neither of them have ever done that. Another point is that you are lumping those two creators in with MJ Gray, and they are very different creators. Mel's story of how she came to be married is very different than YB Edit's story, and both of those stories are very different from MJ Gray's story. You're asking married women in the decenter men and pro-matriarchy space that if they really believe in those things, they divorce their husbands. That's what you're demanding of these women in order to get credibility with you. Prove your bona fides as an anti-capitalist. Quit your job. Stop using currency and get everything you need via bartering. Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? Bitch, you're out here saying that single women understand adulthood better than married women do? That's like the same people that say, oh, you're not really an adult until you get married. Do you not understand how that's the same bullshit? No one's more or less of an adult than anybody else based on their marital status. And anyone who's saying that is doing the same bullshit that JD Vance and all these conservatives are doing. You're not helping.
Okay, she says you're not helping. I don't want to get too much in the weeds of it. I like Therese generally. I don't know that all of this is analogous, but I think the point stands, and I will let it pass. That I do think the argument is sound generally, though my autistic brain does want to kind of get into the weeds of it a bit. But I will say that I think in 4B Forevers, and again, I'm not pro or against any of these women as people. I'm just I'm excited to dive into this with you and go into the nuance of it. I do think there's some things 4B says that are reasonable and some things that she says that I don't quite get. What I really want to know is what is the goal of all of this, which is why I was shocked to find out a little bit more about Therese's romantic situation, because I didn't know anything about it. But I want to know what the goal is for everybody, because the more I learn about these women, the more I go, man, I am not doing anything these women are doing. Like, I am so far from, and I think it's because I am queer and gender fluid that I'm just like, oh, we are not doing the same thing at all. So I'm excited for you to watch that clip. Before we do, though, Chad says, I don't want to derail the convo, so please disregard if it does not go along with the topic or subject. Do you identify as a woman? And if so, what is womanhood to you? Yes, I identify as a woman. I also identify as gender fluid. I also identify gender as a performance. I also identify the biological reality that my gender is also related to that biological reality, which means I don't really believe that like biology cancels out the performance of it. I think biologically speaking, we're all performing gender. And I always related to the way that birds dance and the fish create ecosystems for women to find them attractive. I always think about like how animals across the board all perform gender expectations to win over mates. But I also think like you're more than just as it relates to mating. So I think like as biological creatures, we're all geared to perform. The question is, what is the level of that performance and what does it mean? I mean, we even perform race, even though we know it's a construct. Like, we know race is a construct, and yet we perform it, right? So ultimately, we are all biological creatures in a performance. And the question is, how deep of a relationship with that performance are you going to get? So I also think that's probably why my relationship to these conversations will differ, because I'm not having the same relationship with love or anything else. So with that said, I hope that answered that question a little bit. But what is womanhood to me? It's a performance. It's all a performance. And so depending on what performance you are engaging in, you might be engaging in the womanhood performance. It just depends. It's very nuanced, right? So Therese actually did a collaboration with Lisa on this podcast here. This is modern witch hunts. It's interesting, right? So there's this topic. But Therese also made a video about MJ Gray. And this section here, I want you to listen to, because I learned a lot about Therese I did not know.
You only have one rule when you are a woman considering a romantic relationship with a man. And that one rule is this: make sure his wants and needs are never in conflict with yours. That's it.
Okay, pause. I actually think that's a great suggestion, regardless of the gender. Like, I just don't think this recommendation changes because of the gender of the person. I think your high compatibility partner, regardless of gender, your wants and needs, again, the marriage or the union, but not at the expense of the individual, but not at the expense of the union, right? I think of commitment as a team. You're my teammate. Like, I'm relying on you in this particular way. Otherwise, like, what do I need a teammate for? So if you're in a team with somebody or somebodies, right? The team, okay, but not at the expense of the people on the team. The people on the team, but not at the expense of the team.
That's the whole rule. Organize your life in such a way that he never has to choose between himself and you, because men will always choose themselves. Always.
Okay, men will always choose themselves always. I think that's a generalization. I will take it. I think that's generally true. I also think it's generally true that we're all raised to settle in relationships. And so men will always choose themselves because they're taught to settle. And so it becomes a battle between the person I've been on a teammate. Like, I don't know why we're even teaming up with people that would do that. That's my suggestion, is like, why are we teaming up with people that would choose themselves? Even though we'd all choose ourselves, I don't think that's what she means when she says it. Like, So, okay, there's one thought right there.
Getting what you want can never interfere with him getting what he wants. And if what he wants or needs is to feel like a man, run far
For sure. I agree with this.
away. Because for that kind of man, anything that you do will threaten that. Anytime you succeed or excel at something, it's going to threaten his fragile sense of himself.
Unless, of course, you guys are in a specific bubble in which you're both fulfilling gender expectations and you're both doing it to the point where you feel good about it. Also, if you live in a wholesome household and you guys are like just actually in love, and also caveat, because like my farm brother and his wife are in a patriarchal centered Christian or Catholic relationship, but also they're very in love and very wholesome, and they're on a team and they're both working on deconstructing patriarchy within reason, but like for their bubble, but also like I just, some marriages are actually working, you know what I mean? So I think sometimes there's like, again, I don't want to be on a team with somebody who I'm also secretly thinking is an enemy. And that's what sometimes it sounds like, right?
So that's never going to work. And since the majority of men have at least some of that,
And I use my brother's marriage as an example because it's one that I think works, right? I could also use my other brother's marriage and explain how it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? But like I'm using this brother's relationship because I'm a data-driven girly. I need an example of a working relationship so I know what to base things off of. And I would consider them in a working relationship, like a relationship that works.
that fragile masculinity thing, relationships with most men aren't going to be worth it for you in the balance.
Even though, caveat, it's not a relationship I would want for myself.
For most women. Full disclosure, I have been in a non-monogamous relationship with
Listen to this.
worth it for you in the balance. For most women. Full disclosure, I have been in a non-monogamous relationship with a cisgendered man for nearly a decade. We do not nor have we ever lived together.
He's 10 years younger than me. I was 39 when we met. He was 29.
Neither of us has ever or is currently financial supporting the other, nor will we ever. When I got divorced, I swore I'd never live
Hold on, pause. She is 49 years old. She's 49 years old. Therese, you gorgeous. I literally thought this girl was my age. Ma'am, she is. I thought she was even younger, honestly, a little bit. Like, I was like, how old is Therese? This one is 49, okay? But, okay, there you go.
has ever or is currently financial supporting the other, nor will we ever. When I got divorced, I swore I'd never live with a man again. They're just exhausting. And there's just too much opportunity for
She said, even the good ones. So I don't have this belief. I have this belief about people I didn't marry. Do you know what I'm saying? I have this belief about other men and other people, but not all men. So there's the deviation. That's the deviation. I think all people of all genders could fall into this. I do think there is a problem with men, and my partner and I constantly deconstruct gender expectations and the way we're raised. There was recently a study that was done that said women notice dirt on the floor more than men because of the way women have been trained to notice all of these things. So we incorporate that into our marriage. I say, hey, like there is chances I am noticing things in the house that you aren't because I've been trained this way. So we need to tackle that. We are unlearning together the things that we have been indoctrinated with our whole life. It sounds like these people aren't doing that. And so for me, that's what we do in our marriage. We go, okay, in which ways were we socialized? And in which ways do we need to deconstruct and unlearn? So it's interesting that that isn't the solution, to unlearn the patriarchy. The solution is just not to live with your partner because they're exhausting. Make him unlearn it. Tell him to unlearn it. Don't make him, but tell him to unlearn it. Like unlearn it or we're not going to be together. So then I had the realization listening to this, oh, I just don't like people like that. This is why I tell you, I would never have married this person if I didn't think they were unlearning and going to continue to unlearn the patriarchy, because there is no way. I don't like people like that. Even when I was polyamorous for 10 years, people would say, oh my God, you're so monogamous. Even though I was actively dating a lot of people, I was not committing to anybody because I was like, I don't like people. I don't like them like that. I like people as a group, but I am so independent. I am so fiercely independent. I wouldn't even be in this situation she's in because I wouldn't even want him to associate himself with me unless we were together. So it's interesting that she's willing to be in a long-term relationship with someone that she thinks negatively of. Because I have to assume this also applies to him as she isn't living with him and won't. So why even be associated? Girl, like why even be associated with him? I would not even let him associate with me, right?
labor exploitation when you live with a man. So that's a hard pass for me. And that's my recommendation for other women as well. Like you don't have to, but that's just what I think. You can love a man without sharing a home with him. I am
Chet says it's okay to not wanting to live with someone. Yes, it is, but not if you think it's because he's a loser. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you think your partner's a loser? That is, she's saying it because it's making it sound like she's saying that he's a loser, so I won't live with him. Versus, oh, this works better for us. We love each other. We don't live together, but he's amazing and I would love to live with him, but it makes more sense for us not to. She's saying, I don't live with the man and I wouldn't do it because it's not worth it to me. Negative. It's a negative connotation of the language use. Right? So I want to know more about, I will definitely reach out to Therese. I would love to talk to her. So I will definitely try to do that. I'll DM her and see if she'll respond, right? No pressure, of course, but I would love to learn more about this. Okay. Chet said, Britt, I'm a new watcher. Welcome. And I'm a bit confused about your partner and I'm sorry for my curiosity. Are you married to a man or a woman? Yes. Exactly. Both. You know?
Unmarried, and I am likely to remain so as I coast into the twilight of my life and then die alone with my cats. Although I might get a dog.
Oh,
at some
love
point.
that.
I'll be unlocking.
I'm going through a huge dog phase right now. Girl, I am so tempted. I want to adopt a dog from a shelter so badly right now. Don't even get me started. I'm not going to do it, but I got the dog itch so bad.
Level 49 at my next birthday this fall. So I'm hoping for another 25 years of good life, free from pain and debilitating and or expensive medical conditions.
Okay, now Chad says, I didn't hear that he's a loser. Well, I didn't hear her say he's a loser with those words. I heard her say, I recommend for these reasons women do this like I did. And if those are the reasons, that means her man's a loser. Because why else would you have this standard with a man unless you think he's a loser? Do you know what I'm saying? We can go back and listen to it. Hold on. I'm about it. Let's listen to it again.
Sharing a home with a baby. And since the majority of men have at least some of that fragile masculinity thing, relationships with most men aren't going to be worth it for you in the balance for most women. Full disclosure, I have been in a non-monogamous relationship with a cisgendered man for nearly a decade. We do not, nor have we ever lived together. Neither of us has ever or is currently financial supporting the other, nor will we ever. When I got divorced, I swore I'd never live with a man again. They're just exhausting.
Pause. When I got divorced, I said I would never live with a man again. They're exhausting. She's in a non-monogamous relationship with a man. So even he's not, right? So that's okay. But I'm saying there's a negative implication here versus my other non-monogamous friends are like, oh my God, I love my partners. They're so great. We wouldn't do great living together, which is why we cohabitate with partners that we're most strongly associated with, but we love our partners. And even though we would make great living mates, we love and respect them, which is different than men are so exhausting. I won't live with one. That's a different narrative than my other friends who are in open, you know what I'm saying? I've been in open relationships or polyamorous relationships where I don't need to live with all my partners, but I love them and I respect them. Do you know what I'm saying?
And there's just too much opportunity for labor exploitation when you live with a man. So that's a hard pass for me. And that's my recommendation for other women as well.
Okay, right? So now she's making a recommendation for other women as well. Because of men being men, I don't recommend living with them. Right? That says I'm not dating the consciousness, I'm dating their gender. I'm not saying this of my conscious, I'm a gender deconstructionist, right? So my perspective is my perspective. I'm not saying Teresa's wrong for her perspective. I'm saying I couldn't do this because then that means I am not loving the consciousness that is my partner. I'm engaging with the gender of my partner, which I do not do. Right? I do not judge my partner on gender. I judge them on their character and their actions. So I could never say never live with a man. Which man? Who? Which man? Who? Right? I don't make these decisions based off of these reasons. Right? Okay? Chad said she did it once. Once was enough for her, period. I know, Habibis. Listen, I'm not saying, because you're saying she wants her own space. Why is that a bad thing? Do you think I am saying that? Do you think that I am sitting here and saying Therese cannot be an independent girly who lives on her own? Or am I saying her why is questionable to me? Right? Because why would she even be in an open relationship with a man? Why would she even allow him to say I'm with Therese if she doesn't think highly of him because he's, you know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't she just say, I have a lover? Why wouldn't she just say oh, I don't have a partner. I'm single and living my best life, even if she is engaging with another person? So why put the construct of a relationship on somebody And I'm saying why. I'm not judging it. I'm saying why though. For Brittany, I would not even have the construct. I would be like, I'm single. I'm not with anybody. Right? Just as you take it as a negative connotation, to me, it's just a choice. It's negative because it's done for negative reasons. I was divorced. I will never do it again. So you didn't do it from a place of wisdom. You did it from a place of hurt. When we do things from a place of hurt, we're saying, I had a negative experience, and because I had one negative experience, I'm going to place it on all these other people. Versus, oh, I had this negative experience, which gave me the wisdom and discernment to make sure that I don't settle and I pick a good partner the next time around, right? So the reason why is everything. The why is everything. And I'm saying, oh, that's interesting. I never knew that, right? You said to me, it's neutral. To me, that's all. Okay, but nobody does anything neutrally. You can't. You don't exist that way. Biologically speaking, nothing we do is neutral. So there is a why. You can't exist in a human body with a human brain and do anything neutrally. We didn't evolve that way. So there's always a why. You don't get to exist in a world where there's no reason why you do something. Everything has a reason. So this is hard though, because people want to believe they exist in a world where like, oh no, I didn't choose that person for a job because a neutral reason. Nope, there was a why. There was a why you were rejected. There was a why you picked it. There's a why you even like the water you like. So that's the harder part of this, is like I am trying to challenge everybody to think, why do I even like the water that I like? Right? Why do I even like the smell of this perfume over another perfume? It's not neutral. Nothing is ever kind of neutral, right? Okay. Chat said, she literally said men are insufferable. How can you take that as anything but negative? Yeah, so there's a negative, right? Okay. Let's see. Chat says, if she feels she is basing her decisions based off of fear, not an actual perception of reality, or she's just saying it's not worth the risk, which I think is valid as well. She said she could not, let's see. She just said she could risk being used by her current partner if they live together. Why would you choose that partner? Exactly. It's like, okay, why would you choose this partner if you think he could take advantage of you? Right? So it's interesting. I would love to talk to Teresa about this.
You don't have to, but that's just what I think. You can love a man without sharing a home with him.
I agree with that statement alone. In the vacuum, I agree with that statement alone. You can love a man and not share a house with him. But the why matters.
Unmarried, and I am likely to remain so as I coast into the twilight of my life and then die alone with my cats. Although I might get a dog at some point. I'll be unlocking level 49 at my next birthday this fall, so I'm hoping for another 25 years of good life, free from pain and debilitating and or expensive medical conditions. So that's me. That's my truth.
Okay.
Middle-aged, divorced, feminist content creator, just to confirm my social media narrative identity. It's just my actual life. And it's not because I'm better or more moral or ethical than MJ or any other content creator. I aim to be as ethical and honest as I possibly can in any given situation. But really, it's because I don't have the ability to fake it. Like, I can't do it. I am a menopausal neurodivergent woman. And for those who do not know, those two things combined midlife are a disaster.
Now, okay, I'm also a neurodivergent woman. And I think you guys said she grew up in Orange County, California. I grew up in Orange County, California. Woo woo! We're the same person. And because I grew up in that bubble and I grew up the way that I did, and because I am autistic, I cannot imagine being attached to a person that wasn't my life partner, because I'm busy. I am so fucking independent that I don't even want to be associated with another person. That's why even friendship, I'm like, I am not their friend. I do not like even when people go, oh, Brittany's my friend. Wait a second. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by friend? Because I don't like the commitment of being attached to somebody and being like, oh, Brittany is my what? You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting that she is saying that, like, I want this attachment to this man, and also versus like, yeah, like I am very, so it's interesting how neurodivergency plays into our different dynamics, right? So no shade to Therese. I think she's a grown woman who's made her decision, and I respect that agency. I do question the why because of the way she decided to tell her story. And I also know, as somebody who tells her story all the time, people mishear me all the time. When people hear I moved to Croatia because I married a Croatian, a lot of people think I abandoned my whole life and abandoned my friends and abandoned my job to move to a foreign country to be with a man. Instead of hearing the actual story, which was because of immigration and everything, the team, my partner and I, made a decision to pick the country that embraced us as a married couple. right? Versus actually hearing this story about not being able to afford the American process, not being able to do it, not being able, they hear, because in their bubble, they're used to women at the detriment of their own, giving up everything they have to be with the quote, a man who won't compromise, which is not my story. So everyone's story is unique in a category. And I'm always trying to figure out, oh, what's your story? You know, not everybody has the same story, right?
To the young neurodivergent women, be prepared because this is brutal. Looking back, I have never been very good at masking. Even my inadequate attempts to do it have exhausted me so much to the point where I simply just can't do it anymore. I do not possess the ability to pretend to be someone that I am not.
I love that.
If I'm honest, though, sometimes I wish I could. It might not have made me any happier, but I probably have more money,
Sure.
which would have been useful.
How many times have I said this? A billion.
In the late stage capitalist hellscape that is the year 2026.
Amen.
But anyway, here is
Okay. Amen. Right? That's the segment I wanted to show you on Therese, because I agree with so much of that. Like, that's so fucking true, relatable. Love it. Absolutely. Right? Now, and I think this is kind of important. Because I know we live in a society and we're products of our environment, I'm always trying to ask myself, and this is why I recommend for you, sit in a room and meditate. Who would you be if you didn't have to think about the world in a good way, not in a bad way, not in a neglectful, nihilistic way? Who would I be if I didn't have to think about my body and my skin color and the way that I'm perceived and my orientation? And what if what do I want? And then I aim for that. And that's what I did. I made the decision to say, I love my family, I love my friends, but I live in the most present and I'm going to do what I want, right? And I take into consideration community, and I take into consideration loved ones, and I know somebody might call me at 2 a.m. and need my help. So I'm not so independent that I'm also anti-community or anti-collective. Like, if the collective needs me, I'm here. And also, the collective doesn't need me, I'm going to go do my thing, right? And so that's a part of it. Let me link Therese's video since people are asking about her. Let me link it. There you go. Check that out. Let's see. I read something else in chat, but then I got distracted. Oh, she's specifically saying living with a man and as a woman is exhausting, which implies women living with women wouldn't be exhausting, which makes me want to know, like, what about men is exhausting? Well, this is the thing. Men who haven't deconstructed patriarchy, you can't live with those men because they're not going to do chores. I've lived with men enough to know men who have not deconstructed the patriarchy in a real way, in a deep way, they are exhausting. And even men who are doing it, if they started later than you, if they're younger than you, which her partner's 10 years younger, that's hard because you've had 10 more years to deconstruct the internalized patriarchy that you're suffering from as a woman or being raised as a woman, right? So if she's 10 years younger, that means he's got 10, you know what I mean? She's ahead of him in those ways, possibly, not always. We know that's not true, but possibly, right? So that's the problem, right? I would also say that in my neurodivergent relationship, sometimes my partner and I, this is the dilemma with capitalism and also owning too much property. Sometimes my partner and I dream of a house that sits on 20 acres where we have two small, tiny homes that are next door to each other, right? Or a house so big that I can be on one side and he can be on one side and we're not interacting because we're both very, independent neurodivergents who like our own space. And yet we never want to live apart. We don't always even sleep in the same bed together, but we always want the option, right? We're so independent that like we do whatever we want every day. And also we miss each other every second of the day because we love each other so much. Like I do dream of an apartment for just myself, but then I think about it conceptually and I go, okay, but like, are you there? Are you accessible to me? I'm not going to pack a bag to go see my husband. With peace and love, girl, go fuck yourself. Not Therese, just the general you know? Like, I'm not about to pack a bag to go see the partner that I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like, absolutely not. I would rather be single. Like, I'm not about to work that hard. And I think that's the dilemma is like, I am so neurodivergent that either we're in this or we're not. I'm not going to do this halvesies thing. Like, either we are going to take care of each other with Alzheimer's and we're going to do this together, or like, I'm good, girl. Like, I'm tired. You know what I mean? So when we have these conversations, I think it all needs to play to your strength. But I also believe in love and I believe in humanity and I believe in love. I have girlfriends in my life. Some I would buy a house with and some I wouldn't. Some I would go into business with and some I wouldn't. It would all involve a contract though. So like if I was single and I was still single, I was single for 3 years. My girlies and I were all chasing our careers. We weren't even living in the same places. But let's say I was still single. Let's say for the last 8 years I had been single and I would have been next to one of my girlfriends and we would have been doing life next to each other, but not with each other. I have girlfriends right now who live alone who are like, I would not want to live with you. And I was like, yeah, like, unless we had a big enough house, we need our own space. So even my girlfriends, even this replacement of let's live on a plot of land with all of our best friends, some of our best friends would not make good roommates, even though we love our friends. Getting a good roommate is hard. Like living with someone is difficult. So you really got to pick somebody you can tolerate, even if, or like not tolerate, somebody that doesn't feel like you're tolerating them actually. Because like my partner and I don't know how to explain it, but we live together so well. It's really easy to live with my partner. And I think it's easy because we listen and we respect each other. And I can see why a lot of people don't have that. So they don't have any data point for this. Like one thing I always tell my partner is like, I've never heard my parents argue over dishes. Like my mom knew what was her job. My dad knew what it was his job. And they never, in the 40 years they've been together, ever discussed who does what. So all of these marriage stories that come out of the, who men don't do the chores and women are left doing the chores. I never heard my parents have this conversation because there was no conversation about it. Do your fucking job. This is your job. This is your responsibility. Do it. That's what we decided. That's what we negotiated. Do it. I'm not going to have this conversation with you. And same thing. My partner, I don't want to have this conversation. Do it. And that's it. So all these women that are men don't do the chores and men don't do, because they're bad partners. And they happen to be men. But they're bad partners, first and foremost. My father always did his side of the chores. No questions asked. Do them. That's your job. Do it. And that's the kind of marriage I want. This kind of marriage I have. Don't argue. Do it. All these women just have bad partners who happen to also be men, which I understand. So you got to find a man who's understands the responsibility of showing up and doing it, right? Okay, let's go and watch Lisa's response to 4B. So just a reminder, here's 4B. Okay, this is 4B.
And by the way, you will notice one of the biggest creators who is not in a romantic relationship with a man, she hides her face on her account. Cecilia Regina.
Wait, that's you. You hide your face with an account.
I think she does that for her safety.
Well, possibly. See, that's the problem with 4B. And like, I don't know why and what and how. So maybe I'll talk to her in the future as well. And again, everything I say, remember, I am also an autistic woman. So the way that I talk, and I am a Taurus and I am a dominant, like personality, aggressive girly. So when I talk, it might sound judgy, but I'm actually asking you questions. I am an autistic kid my whole life who would be like, but why? And people think I'm fighting with them. I literally just don't know why you're doing it. Like you think you're telling me why, but you're not. So if you say like, hey, why do you like that banana bread? And you're like, oh, it tastes good. That's not why. Why do you like this banana bread? Oh, I think, I don't know. It just tastes good. It just tastes good. That's it. Is that all you need to like something? Because I feel like for me, it's like, it tastes good. I like the texture. It's within a reasonable price. Like, is this banana bread your favorite, even if it was $1 million? Like I have so many more questions than I just like it. Right? But that's why I do philosophy for a career and other people don't. Because I could ask myself, it really is that deep for me. Okay, let's go ahead and watch Lisa's response to this. I'm excited.
I'm going to respond to this video made about me, that's me in the corner, by a creator whose video I'll tag below. She goes by 4B Forever, and she made a video criticizing the centering of married women in the decentering men movement. I'll tag the video below so you can...
Pause. Chad said, unfortunately, men aren't raised and socialized to be equal partners, and we have to unpack that and make them want to change the socialization and become more pansocial. The homosociality makes it harder to reach them. Could I just say, I'm so sorry. It also isn't our job to, because your comment, it's just made me think about it. I cannot be the reason my partner changes, and I would not recommend dating anybody who hasn't already come to the conclusion themselves. So women do get trapped in thinking they can teach their male partners to be better. You can't. And don't. I would never try. That's why when I was single and I was dating, I would go on single dates with people. I would ask a question. I'd be like, I'm over it. So don't date men for their potential. If you have to train your man, teach your man, if you have to do that with any gender, it's over, girl. It was over before it started.
Go watch it, and the multiple follow-up.
I just want to make sure people don't hear me and then think, oh, Brittany's saying I can train you can't train anyone to be anything. Adults have to either want to change or they won't. Okay?
videos, but I wasn't going to say anything because I get this criticism all the time. But honestly, after seeing how supportive and kind everyone has been, including my mutuals, including my longtime followers, thank you so much to anyone who's made a video to validate the work that I do. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm extremely humbled by the overwhelming positive response. So it just feels kind of wrong not to say anything now. So yeah, there's a couple things that I want to say because I do believe that this original video and all of the follow-up videos that this creator made definitely have like a logical through line. I do think that the conversation is worth
I have heard 1.2. Let me know if it sounds too weird.
having, but I do want to offer kind of a different perspective. After I do that, I'll address a couple of other things that I'm sure people are curious about. Okay, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and get this picture off the screen now. So going back to what I said about the logical through line, because I want to make it very clear that I don't necessarily disagree with this creator at all. I do think that there is a level of privilege, especially when it comes to like credibility in the decentering men space that partnered or married women have. Now, I think multiple
Oh, pause. I just want to say this because this is interesting too. A lot of the conversations have always confused me when we've talked about like the privilege of single women versus married women. Because single women would be like, oh, you have two incomes. We don't have two incomes. They'll be like, oh, you have a partner who can do XYZ. Like there is a privilege to being partnered. There's also a privilege to having a roommate. There's a privilege with having a parent or a community or a grandparent. Like there's a privilege to having friends. There's always a privilege. That's why it's not bad to be privileged. I hope more people could be privileged. The question is, do you hold yourself back from being successful and having a good life because you think people have it better than you? Or are you also living a great life? Let me tell you this right now, that there's like a joke in the family that Brittany is so independent that she's not even worried about her partner dying. And that is true. I'm not worried about it. My life will not significantly change. I mean, it will change emotionally. It will change it will change like in many ways, but it won't really change. Like, do you know what I'm saying? I love my partner. I'm so glad I got to meet them in this limited time on earth. I'm so glad I got to meet them. And the functionality of my life won't actually change if they die. I will move back to America. I will live with my girlies or next to my girlies. I will have an apartment. I will have my dream job. Everything will basically be the same. There will just be a very big sadness of losing connection with the human being that I love. And so that's the thing about a lot of these girlies that are like, oh, I don't have help with rent. Okay, what rent? Like you're going to need to pay. This is why men say like, oh, I sacrifice going to work. Girlie, you're going to have to work anyways. It's not a sacrifice working. You know what I mean? Like it's not a sacrifice having a job. It's just the reality of being an adult, which is why Teresa's original video made so much sense. Like everyone's still going to have to work. Everyone still has a job. Everyone still pays bills. Right? So like you got to think about it from that way. You got to remember being single doesn't mean you have a less quality of life. It just means you have a different one. I couldn't even, my quality of life is not going to change. You know what I mean? Chad said, materially and in routines, it won't change much. Exactly. Like emotionally it will change. Like it'll be devastating. But like my material reality will not change much. Chad said, Bray, would you recognize this settling of having to do the majority of the emotional labor in a relationship with a man? Nandi, constructed individual as infantilization. Bray, would you recognize the settling of having to do the majority of the emotional labor in the relationship with a man as infantilization? Hold on. Would you recognize the settling of having to do the majority of the relationship? Are you asking if it's a form of infantilization to allow you yourself as the woman to assume the man or be in a relationship with a man that you have to do the emotional labor with as a form of infantilization? Like the man is so incapable of doing it that it's a form of infantilization? Because I do think thinking men inherently can't figure it out is a form of infantilization. So yes, yeah. I do think assuming men could never be as good as women is a form of infantilization, that the patriarchy has brainwashed women into thinking that they will never be, which is why I don't believe in bioessentialism. I don't believe in gender in that way, right? Yeah, if a man is non-deconstructed, it's not because he's a man. It's because he refuses to not deconstruct, right? Like, yes, it's impacted because he's a man, because being raised a man, being raised a woman, being raised any gender will impact the way you think about life, for sure, right? Just as I wonder what you would feel like in America. I feel like a tourist in my birth city. I mean, USA. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, right? Like, I think the issue is like I have places in the US that I prefer. And my job is remote. I can move anywhere. I'm very privileged in that way. But it took me, guys, this was a journey I've been doing since I was 19. I have been on this journey of trying to be independent and be able to like have a job online since I was 19. I'm 36. I'm going to be 37, right? I earned this. Okay. I worked really hard for this, which means I now can move anywhere within reason that I can afford. I can't move most places because I can't afford most places, but I can move basically anywhere in quotation marks. And I did that on purpose, right? Just that I don't necessarily mean men as gender, but man is in relationship with patriarchy. I think I'm struggling to quite understand the question, if I'm going to be honest. I think I'm struggling to grasp it. Not that I don't think it's probably a great question, but I think I am. My brain is, I think, struggling to grasp it. That makes me feel like I can answer this in a good way. If you want to reword it, you can, or if somebody wants to translate, they can. But I think I am struggling to grasp it. Okay, let's go back to Lisa, and then I can go back to comments in a sec.
Perspectives can be true at once. The way that I look at it is more of a spectrum, and not just the decentering men spectrum, but I want y'all to imagine this as like the male-centered patriarchy to 4B spectrum. So a couple things to note is that globally where we are located on this scale is about here. It sucks, and I hate to have to even bring this up, but once you take first world countries out of the equation, the majority of the world population, women included, is going to be closer to this side of male-centered patriarchy, etc. And I would say that the
her use of first world is interesting.
decentering men conceptualization does not begin in the middle of this scale. Decentering men starts a little bit to the right of that. Okay. Another important thing to note is that 4B
I'm actually going to slow her down because I think I'm already losing her a bit.
is a direct response to this. So
Okay, yes.
the only reason we are headed in this direction is because otherwise we're always heading in this direction.
Okay. So I agree, which is why I say feminism isn't the end goal, because feminism is a reaction to patriarchy. So you don't want to be a feminist. You don't want civilization to need feminism, but it does need feminism because it's a reaction to patriarchy. 4B is a reaction to patriarchy in South Korea. It's been co-opted, I think, by Americans or US people. So I think we should keep that in mind. That I don't know where 4B Forever lives, or I don't even know her ethnicity. She keeps talking about like white women, white women, white women. Are you a white woman? Are you not a white woman? I don't know. So like, does anybody follow her? Is she a white woman? Because she always talks badly about white women, but I don't know what she's doing to really like, I don't know what that means, you know, because sometimes I feel like white women in the feminist spaces signal but don't really engage in black politics and brown politics. And like, you know, are you watching black creators, like not just black women who make content, but in the black sub, like, are you engaging in black TikTok? Like, are you engaging in black culture? Like, are you engaging in brown culture? Are you engaging in like immigrant culture? Because I don't hear that a lot in your content. I don't hear that you're watching or reading black philosophers. I don't hear that you're reading or watching black people or brown people. I don't hear that you're reading immigrant perspectives. So that's what I want to know too, right?
So you have to remember that 4B is first and foremost a response to patriarchal injustice. It is like a radical kind of justice-based movement. Which
yeah, and I, even when I heard about it in South Korea, like don't date men, don't have babies with men, don't engage with men, I could never do this. I could never be 4B because I could never limit myself because the world sucks. No offense to the world. You guys suck, but I'm not gonna. My life is not gonna suck because you suck. And I am very, you know what I'm saying? I'm very independent, even of the whole planet. With peace and love, I don't see how me not having the best life benefits anybody, right? I'm just gonna be grumpy along with you? Absolutely not. So like, I could never agree to this, right? This is like saying like, to fight fat phobia, I'm never going to go to the gym. With peace and love, girls, it doesn't matter if you're fat to me. I love fatness. I don't care about any of that, but I'm not going to like stop going to the gym because you know what I'm saying? Like that's what Teresa, I think, was trying to say in her original thing. Like, oh, I'm going to quit my job because capitalism. I'm not quitting my job because of capitalism. Do you know what I'm saying? Absolutely not. Okay.
once again wouldn't have to exist if we otherwise wouldn't be heading in this direction. So just for the sake of like this thought experiment, let's just
Okay, Chet says I am from the global south, and besides the language being problematic, she's not entirely wrong, though. A lot of the countries outside the West, women, in fact, don't have equal rights to men. That might be true globally, but I think it is a propaganda from white nationalism and whiteness and white supremacy to say that anybody who's outside of the West, because the West is a white supremacist dog whistle, is less cultured or less civilized. So I'm very cautious about the words we're using here, because again, this is what white supremacy use to absolutely genocide the Native Americans and indigenous people. This is what they continue to use to subjugate black and brown people. And so I'm very cautious about giving into Western propaganda and saying like the West is the most civilized and the most liberated. And they're just saying white people. They are literally just saying white people, whiteness. And so I agree that patriarchal religions can be a global issue in other places, but it is also an issue in USA, where they are trying and attempting to take away women's right to vote, women's reproductive rights, women's right and agency to do anything or engage in independent thought away from her husband. So again, like, just, I agree, but also, right?
Talk about America. Since the conversation is happening on TikTok, mostly between American women, let's just go ahead and place American women on the scale here. So
I'm assuming she means US women. I don't know if 4B is from the US or from Canada or another part of America. So I'm assuming she means US.
I would say that the current zeitgeist is probably somewhere in the middle, just barely touching the decentering men movement. And I think that that's why you're seeing the disproportionate amount of people that are watching content from married or partnered women. Because you have to remember that decentering men and 4B as a concept has just been introduced to the feminist zeitgeist, right? So we are kind of living in our own world over here. Because like I said,
apparently in South Korea, a lot of the 4B movement girlies are also a lot of transphobes, and they're very like bigoted. So I worry about that as well, as a lot of feminism can be turfy. So I'm even, that's why I think 4B is also a dog whistle to me a little bit, or like a questionable identity. So I have heard that as well. And so that's the stuff that I'm very cautious about. Like, we have to remember the world's very transphobic as well, including women. Women are very transphobic. So you have to remember that. You have to remember, as a queer person, I am very aware of how transphobic women are, right? So that's why I'm extra cautious about these like women's movements, because I'm like, are you a TERF? Because
this hasn't even hit the mainstream. We are still a very niche movement. So
True.
The reason that you're seeing the numbers disparity, the popularity disparity, is not because married women are taking the lead or people are looking to married women or partnered women as the leaders necessarily. I think they are looking to a relatable situation, something that's easy to digest, coming from where they're coming from, right? Because they're coming from a patriarchal, male-centered point of view, which takes a while to work through. So if you picture this as a spectrum, 4B is all the way over here. And I'm sorry,
Well, the problem with this is that it insinuates, and this is why I say progression isn't exactly linear. It insinuates that 4B is the goal. And I would say, no, 4B cannot be the goal. So it might be a spectrum, but it doesn't mean it's the goal. So don't get distracted by the fact that she's putting 4B at the end, because that's not the goal. So when I make, goals and I say, look, this is the path. You want to get over here. Now she's putting 4B here, but see, 4B can't be the goal, right? So if I was making a linear line of goals, I would put let's say you put feminism here, okay? And you put intersectional feminism, and then you put 4B, but they're not the goal. They're still far from the goal. So just make sure that we're not, if we're looking at it like a spectrum, we're not saying conservatives are here and 4B is here. Because 4B is a very conservative notion. You're conserving. You're literally not engaging in some sort of liberation. You're engaging in a reaction to that is so extreme. You're saying, I'm going to deny myself. How do you liberate while you're denying? Right? I'm saying, don't deny yourself. Live within your joy. Give yourself more choices, all within reason. Right?
A lot of women in our lifetime are going to make it all the way down to the 4B spectrum. That is talking about things like decenter romance, decenter marriage, decenter relationships, etc.
Do those relationships also engage with children, community, friends, family? We're all in relationship too. Can I not have sex with my friends now? Like in 4B, are you guys not also having sex with your friends? Like, what are the rules here?
Simply a thing of time. Okay. And what I think is happening right now is that more and more women are starting to get a lot more comfortable here, and they're actually moving.
Now, if you said 4B is a survival reality that we have to do because we're in a zombie apocalypse, okay. But what if we're not in a zombie apocalypse? Because like that's kind of what it sounds like. Like not engaging with men in any capacity. Like there's a difference between decentering marriage and realizing you don't need to be married to have a good life and saying I'm never going to be with a man. It's like, okay, are you a lesbian? Like if you're going to be so radical as to say I'm not going to be with a man, then you know you only live once, right? You know you're going to die. Just for the record, you will die. This is it. Your one chance on the planet and this is what you've decided to do with it. Do you have to do this? Because maybe in South Korea, it's like life or death for them. Like if they don't do 4B, men will kill them. Okay. That's different. You're in a really bad situation. But if, you know what I'm saying? Like you have one chance on earth and I want to give people the privileged opportunity for choice. I want everyone to be privileged enough to make a choice. But if you're do you get what I'm saying?
Moving in this direction.
Yeah, well, Chad says political lesbianism historically has been a thing. Yeah, but I think it's a cope. I hear that. I understand queer history. I'm saying it's a cope. I'm saying, why would you center your life as a reaction to and give yourself a limited way of being? You know, it's very like, you know how people move out and like stop paying taxes because they want to quote live independent of the government and that they don't vaccinate their kids. And it's like, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I'm the most free. Your kids aren't vaccinated, dude. You're living in the woods. You have no connection, no school, no formal education. Is this freedom? Is this liberation? You know what I mean?
I think what we'll see eventually is that this ball will kind of roll all the way closer to somewhere over here. And again, I'm just talking about within a feminist niche. So I'm not talking about women who live all the way over here. The furthest they will make it is like, if this is decentering men content, this is like relatable marriage content. This is the women that are posting, you know, look what my husband did. And then they're like, wait, why are you guys mad? He loves me, actually. This is that content. If you take it a couple steps further, you'll start to dip your toes into decentering men content that is present.
Also, I do think that there's a trap here that if you are going to make fun of women for getting a divorce, then you run into a trap here, right? Because now you're saying, you know how trad wives trap women into marriages because they shame them for getting divorces? Well, if on the 4B side, you guys do the same thing, what the fuck is the point? Don't shame people for getting a divorce. Even if MJ's relationship, as an example, ends up in a divorce, who cares? Get a divorce, girl, sign that paperwork, right? Don't sit there and glow. It's like with Meg Thee Stallion. People are gloating that she got cheated on because they're like, that's what she deserves. They said the horrible things about Meg Thee Stallion. She's run through. That's what she gets. She knew he was a cheater. That's what she deserves. Like, stop. 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 You're so fucking cruel for no fucking reason, bro. People are fucked up and you're sitting here excited that Meg Thee Stallion was cheated on, or you're gloating because someone might get a divorce. You guys are so deeply fucking wounded and it's showing in your work. Stop. Feel compassion for people. People are suffering. This is not a moment for you to celebrate or say, I told you so.
In like a non-radical way. Now, did I say presenting things in a radical way is bad? No. I'm saying that people that are all the way over here are not going to have the ears to hear it. Okay. So I really think that that's all we're seeing, because by the year 2049, most women, like over 50% of women, are going to be single and child free or childless. So the zeitgeist is going to end up coming over here. And that's going to result in more people being able to understand and really like tolerate. Again, I'm not saying that it's intolerable. I'm saying that people coming from over here will not be able to tolerate the 4B message for a while. It's going to take them some time, because what you also need to understand is that most women that are dipping their toes into the decentering men pool are married. Content that's made from like a relationship point makes more sense to them than someone saying just be single forever 4B, right? They haven't deconstructed that stuff yet. It's going to take them a minute to get there, right?
But why would you even make a prescription to stay single? I just don't get it. Why would you make the prescription to stay single? What's the point of it? It just sounds like hyper independence. It sounds like white woman capitalist feminism, where it's like, don't be in community. I am such an independent girly, but I know the power of community. Singlehood is a statement that you are born single. You are born an individual, right? And I'm saying, why would you make the prescription to be single? Don't make the prescription to be married. Don't make the prescription to be single. Make the suggestion to be happy and joyful. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you even making this suggestion? And it's because I'm in queer circles where, like, again, like, are you saying, I don't know. I just don't like it. It doesn't make sense to me, right? Chad said, Britt, do you think the root of what do you think the root of infantilization is? A fear response to accountability and loneliness in a way that holding boundaries could lead to isolation and being alone? Guys, infantilization is a very layered and complex issue. It's psychological, it's environmental, it's individual, and it's philosophical. Infantilization as a concept is, I could make a 100-hour video essay on infantilization because it exists everywhere. What about infantilizing your parents? We're just talking about men and gender. Do you know there's a whole subculture of the issue of infantilizing parents? Like not holding your older immigrant parents accountable because the infantilization of they just can't handle it is deeply rooted in cultural expectation of not questioning your elders, right? It's not just with men and women in dating situations. It also extends to all types of relationship dynamics. At the end of the day, all of these conversations are about relationship. That's what I want to move everyone towards if they can. This is not about gendered relationships or being married or being single. It's about the relationship we not only have to ourselves, but to others. How is our relationship to one another? And how can we be the most joyful, open with boundaries, and the most foundationed in joy? How do we build foundational relationships rooted in joy, right? Instead of a reaction to something negative, it's a decision made out of joy, right? But great question. But doesn't it just like make you realize, like, oh my God, it's so much more than just being married or a man. Like, men are still not the center of the universe, right? Like, the issue here is, like, it's never just about relationship romantic. It came from your ancestors and your grandmas and the forced marriages and child marriages and everything in our lineage that brought us to this point now. It's not just about men. But see how we always center it around men? I'm not going to do this because of a man. A man? Who cares what a man is doing, girl? Like, I get it. You have to eventually deconstruct it to the point where you don't care what a man is doing. But I'm more focused on, like, what did my grandma do? And why did my mom do this? And why was my grandma married at 10? And why did this happen? Like, why do women in my family still uphold the patriarchy? Why do mothers protect their predator sons? Right? Why is all of this happening? How do our mothers learn to decenter their own sons? Right? And it all comes down to also, and it's connected to the intersectionality of structural systems of oppression, right? Prison systems are playing a huge role in our dating. How about that? Do you want me to start talking about that? How, like, prison systems and the way that they're set up in the US impact our dating relationships. The Black community was specifically targeted by the KKK police force to take fathers out of their homes, to put them in prison systems, to create this whole situation with the Black community that the white people love to talk about, how Black men never stay in the marriages, as if it wasn't actually absolutely a target of white supremacy to take fathers out of homes, right? So, like, when we're having all of these conversations, you didn't just pop into existence. Everything came. This all started thousands of years ago. We are the result of thousands and thousands of years of bullshit. And then you think you just popped into existence and made a 4B, TikTok channel and decided you knew everything about history. This is why I'm saying, why is this white woman constantly talking about, white women feminism, and we should listen to Black voices. And then you're not talking about Black men impacted by white supremacy in this system. Where is the intersectionality, right? So, like, Black children are being shot by police officers and the 911 calls are like, oh, it was a Black adult male. He was 12. Tamir Rice was 12, right? It's not just about the men you're dating. It's not about your Tinder accounts. This is absolutely connected to everything that came before us. And with this rhetoric of, fuck men and fuck the system, I hear you, girlies. And yet, where is the centering on children? Where is the centering on the young? Where is the centering on the most vulnerable? Where is that? Because I don't see it. I want to see 4B Forever talk about caring for children, helping young boys, helping young girls, helping young they-thems. Like, where is the center of that? That's what I want to see. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me scroll. Let me make sure. Did that? I wasn't reading chat. Hold on. Chat says, Let me see. I recall an uptick of American 4B after the election, the fear of Trump enabling wave of normalized discrimination and men lying about political affiliation. Not saying I agree with any of that. We covered it. We covered it on this channel. And I said, I feel like American women are misunderstanding the Korean movement, and even how big of a movement is it in Korea, and like, what does it mean? And like, I feel very confused about it too when it came out, right? Chat said, I almost forgot how bubbled everything is. Thank you. It is, isn't it? Let's see. Chat says, yes, let's get into it. Yes, preach. Okay, good. Okay. Let's see. I was mad I woke up early and in pain, but I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I got to have a chance to chat with you all. I love that. Welcome to the live stream, girls. Happy to have you here. Chat said, not me trying to get to the root of why the infantilization is what infantilization is in one sentence. I know. These topics are so layered and such a big, like, it's so intense that's why I think it's interesting that all these women keep, I think casually, actually, my Discord just shared this video, a little bit of a tangent, about a commentary channel talking about commentary channels and how her criticism of the commentary channels, that it's superficial commentary. And that's why I really try to focus on my lane, because I don't just want to make a video giving superficial commentary, but also I do love philosophy, and I think there's always a conversation to be had about it. But yeah, I think sometimes content creators in general, they just make content about the most trending thing because that's what people are talking about, but they don't say anything the whole time. Like, you're not saying anything. And like, I don't want to be those content creators, so that I have to remind everybody why we're here and what we're doing here. My name is Brittany Simon. We're doing philosophy through pop culture, and everything is connected to everything that ever was, and no one exists in a vacuum. You didn't just pop into existence. We are all products of our environment. We are evolved animals on a planet. And with all of that said, I think you can have a strong relationship with yourself and everything outside of yourself. So you must know who you are when no one is here to witness you, and you must know what role you play when you are being witnessed. So witness me now telling you, regardless of how you perceive me, I am joyful. And regardless of how bad the world is, my joy will not be rocked. That I have liberated my spirit from the struggle and suffering world that is, and I am a community member. I'm a part of a collective. I believe in lifting all of us up. It's all of us or none of us. Okay. These two things have to exist at the same time. You have to balance you as an agent and then you as a participatory party in the collective, right? Okay.
So these are married women. By the time 2049 rolls around, these women here are going to be single. And so they are naturally going to center other single women for content, for...
Hear me out. Why would I center anybody but my joy? See how they center others? Because we're externally taught. Society teaches us to externalize our sense of meaning. And I'm saying, look inward for your sense of meaning and have it go out. It goes in and it goes out. So if your centered of meaning is your selfishness, your entitlement, your bad attitude, that's what you will give out. If your centeredness is joyful and wholesome and beautiful, then that's what will emanate out. And I'm saying, get good with yourself, because you're not getting good with yourself. You're making the world a worse place. Get good with you so you don't make other people burdened the way you're burdened.
Advice, etc. Right now, we are just the lowest common denominator. Women that are in relationships that can talk about the downfalls of relationships.
By the way, and that's why all those incel men and all those men that are angry and they're lonely, they're not working on this. And so we all have to suffer. We all get murdered. We all get raped because they won't do the work. Do the work. Okay, same with these women. Do the work so you don't end up putting out bad energy into the universe because you're not working on this. Look, humanity can't be shitty unless we were shitty, and humanity's pretty shitty right now. So we all must be shitty. So the only way to make humanity better is for all of us to do the work. So the individual becomes the collective, right? Also, I feel like I keep doing this and that just looks bad, but okay, that's not what the point is. Do the work.
With men are just more palatable right now. And I know in a way that that's what 4B Forever was saying. It just, the lens that it was presented through is almost like any of us have any control over that, right? But I do think it's a conversation worth starting. I am absolutely not opposed to having the conversation and sort of like starting to plant those seeds, because genuinely, like, I'm for whatever gets us away from this side. So just to address really quickly why I think a lot of content creators got what seemed like defensive, I think it's simply because this is how we're viewing it. We're not viewing anything as a hierarchical thing. And I know that there's an element to it that might be involuntarily hierarchical, so to speak. A lot of creators kind of took offense to that because a lot of people went ahead and took those words and then painted us in a very sinister light when this is genuinely how we are viewing the conveyor belt experience of this. This is genuinely how we are picturing the journey of women sort of decentering men.
Wow.
And again, right now, this is us, and this is where most people are entering, right? They're going to enter this bubble first.
Sure. Bubble.
And then they're going to come through and end up in this bubble. And then they're going to come through and possibly end up over here on the more radical side of the spectrum.
Radical doesn't always mean good, girlies. You need to deconstruct the word radical too, because radical does not always mean good. So you need to be careful that you find balance.
But you also can't help the fact that you're going to lose a lot of women along the way. A lot of women are going to drop off, get into relationships, decide that the mindset is not beneficial enough. You know what I'm saying? You're going to lose some women regardless. And so being on the very, very far end of the spectrum, that's like the opposite of the patriarchy, I think.
Look, I'll be real. You know how people say decenter men and love your friends? I think you should decenter your friends too. I think you should decenter existence. But no one's going to get there because that's talk about. I think you should decenter the fact that you think you exist. I think you should decenter free will. Do you even have it? Right? I think you should learn to zoom in and out of your existence. You should process that you're an evolved animal on a planet. You're a speck of dust in the universe, girly. You don't matter. And then zoom in and realize, wow, you're a profound consciousness. No one can replace you. You're beautiful. This connection we're having with humanity is so deep and profound. And then zoom back out into the universe and be like, holy fuck, you can't even see me. Do I even exist? Zoom back into your body and be like, oh my God, what is this limited thing that I exist in? Like, do all of these things, right? The problem is like, this is so layered. It really depends on where you're coming from. But, you know, this is the point I'm always trying to make about bubbles and perception and frameworks. We really are just limited to whatever we have going on here and everything that we're perceiving. That's it. That's all you have. So the question is, do you realize that and what are you going to do about it? And do you need to do anything? Maybe you really found a bubble where you're like, honestly, I'm good here, girl. Like, I don't need to examine more. I'm vibing. I'm joyful. I'm going to die here. Great. We're really only here for a short time. So as long as you're joyful and you're where you're at, I don't think any of this matters. I think it only matters in the way that you think it does. That doesn't mean you shouldn't protest or you shouldn't do politics or you shouldn't vote or you shouldn't uphold your community. I'm just saying, like, there are some community members, guys, that spend all of their life in their small town they grew up in, feeding children, housing the unhoused, you know, giving people education. They never go to the big city. They never do much else, but they're happy and joyful and content. And that's a really good life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just as good of a life as the life that I have. If that is your joy and that's where you need to be, how beautiful was your life that when you died, hundreds of people from the community came to your funeral because that's how impactful you were. No one will ever know your name. You'll never be famous. You're not on TikTok, but you really did something for your 6-foot radius. And that's fucking beautiful. So it's about that balance, you know?
Think it is hard. Like, you're kind of doing the unacknowledged work, and I understand wanting to be acknowledged for it. I do. So really the different perspective I want to present is that this is how we're traveling through the continuum.
I did for a second when 4B Forever said like, oh, you want to decenter patriarchy in men, but you won't divorce your husbands. It almost sounded like when men are like, oh, you want to decenter patriarchy? Why are you wearing makeup? As if men get to own makeup. As if men get to own relationship, like as if patriarchy gets to own makeup. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Guys, even if the whole world was literally women and femmes, we would have makeup. We would have it because it's nice and it's fun. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if we had just women, we would have marriage. It would just look different. We would have partnership and cohabitation. You know what I mean? So being single forever just doesn't make sense. You know, you're being weird. You know what I mean?
Other than this kind of insinuation that, again, I don't think 4B Forever herself like really made, but I think.
What? No. Chet says, how does decentering existence even look? Is it similar to astral projection? No, it's philosophical. Decentering existence means to ask yourself, what is the point of my existence? And am I obsessed with thinking it's my family legacy or my politics or the need to marry a husband? Existence is a concept of aliveness and the idea that like, oh, I must be here for a reason, right? So it's about letting go of the attachment that you must be here for a reason, which means I couldn't just exist because you do just exist because, right? And so it's deconstructing and letting go of the attachment that, oh, now that I'm here, I must fulfill some sort of a legacy. I must have a son with my name and call him Junior. Decentering existence means that you decenter this attachment to the fact that existence must mean something. That's what that means.
A lot of people came away with this take, but there's this insinuation that like women are not coming from here, that women are being kind of dropped down into the middle and then they're choosing to go this way or that way. But I just genuinely, I don't think that that's what's happening. I think that people relate to what they know, what they experience. And a lot of women right now are married or in relationships. In 10, 20 years, that's going to be vastly different. And we are going to be the less listened to voices. And I look forward to that day. I look forward to the day that like my content is obsolete. So next up, I do want to address the criticism that I get quite often.
Okay.
And again, this is I get this from both men and women. And the criticism is, well, why don't you just make content for married women on how to decenter men? Or why don't you make content that is like directly for married women since you're a married woman?
Listen to me right now. I'm going to make a third channel called Parenting from a Single Woman's Perspective, from a childless perspective, not single. I'm going to make parenting content and then have people mad at me and say like, you're not a parent. You don't know. I know more than a lot of parents. I do. I know more than many parents who have children. And I know because I worked in childcare professionally. And I know because parents came to me because they knew I knew how to parent better than them. Yeah. So like I'm tempted. Don't get me started. Not everyone though. Lots of people who talk about parenting don't know shit about parenting, right? But same thing. It's like married women can sometimes know better what it's like to be single, the same way single people can know what it's like to be married. It depends on the person. It depends on your knowledge. Do you know what I'm saying? So like it just this concept and this idea that people don't understand it, like, you know what I mean? Like what it means to be, but that's because we're so like, we don't know ourselves. We don't know. You know what I mean? So again, it's not about being perfect. It's just funny that people are like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, why don't you make content for only married people? It's like, what?
And to that, I say, I genuinely do. If I were to pivot my content and actually gear it towards married women, I don't think I would do absolutely anything different. That's kind of the whole thing of it. That's why I make the content that I do. First of all, most of my videos are addressing things and issues that happen in relationships, which I am qualified to speak on according to the people that are telling me to make relationship-centered content, right? First of all, I already do. I don't really think that any of what I say is unhelpful to women who are already, and it's advice that I myself follow. That's why I actually put it out there. And this leads right into the next criticism that I get, which is, why do you tell other women not to get married? Because I know that if y'all were to actually go out there and put everything I say into practice and expect men to react the same way that my husband does, and I never had to teach him this, you would have a very different result. I have eyes. I see how other men act. I see how men respond to the way that my husband treats me, or the way that even my husband speaks about men, the way that I speak about men, even the comments I make like offhandedly, like not even thinking they're a big deal. People act very shocked by it. So I can deduce just from that like for the most part, most marriages are not going to look like mine. And I don't know a better way to like say that other than what I just said. So me telling women,
and I don't think it's because her husband is the exception. That's the thing. My partner is not the exception to the rule. Our marriage is the exception to the rule. Most people are in bad marriages, regardless of gender. Lesbians too. Most of y'all are in bad marriages. So our relationship is the exception. And because our relationship is the exception, it means it runs off of different rules. And guys, the exception is that we don't abuse each other. The exception is that we don't lie to each other. The exception is we're not stealing from each other. I watch so many finance shows, and every time it's like, oh, my husband has $100,000 of debt and hasn't told me. I tell my partner all the time, I will divorce you. Like, I will divorce you for lying to me. Guys, we don't lie to each other. If we catch each other in a lie, that's it. Thanks for being here. It's been good while it lasted. I'm out. Like most of you will stay with, and I've done it in the past too, lying, cheating, abusive people because we're in cycles of believing we don't deserve better. And I'm saying the exception to our marriage is not us as individuals, it's us as a unit. And that took a lot of healing on our part. We had to be healed enough and go through our own therapy, our own growing stages to then meet each other at the time in our life when the timing was right and we were healed enough to move in a direction together, right? I've lived with partners. I've shared rent with partners. I've engaged with partners before. We were too unhealthy to have an exceptional relationship compared to everybody else. Like we're fucked, right? So that's what I'm saying, guys. Like we're really struggling out here as a humanity, as a whole. And so if everyone is struggling, right, then it would be exceptional. I mean, the fact that some people grow up without ever seeing like a long-term relationship is really interesting since I have the privilege of having two. Since I have the privilege of being in a family structure where most people don't get divorced, it's a very different relationship structure. Yes, there are problems. Yes, there are absolutely problematic unions. Yes, there's a lot of a lot of issues. Some of these men should never have been married. And yet it sets up a different precedent. We're going to cover this tomorrow. I saw a TikTok of a woman who tried to explain she has like 100 first cousins and people were like, how is that possible? I'm like, easily. Like coming from an Assyrian background where I've about, I think almost 60 or 65 first cousins ish, depending on how, and like, yeah, easy. Like, what do you mean? Do I have more? I might have 80. I have to recount. I can't remember the number. It was either 60 or 80. I don't remember. But yeah, of course, like we're talking about completely different worlds. Like everything is completely different. Okay. I still have to explain to people that paying your parents' bills is not normal or healthy. It might be normal in your bubble, but it's not healthy. Teenagers should not feel responsible for paying for their parents' electricity bills. Do you know there's a whole bubble where parents take out lines of credit in their kids' names and kids don't know until they're 18 and they don't know why their credit is shot? Guys, we're not all growing up the same. Some of your parents are the first relationships you have and they were abusive. Fuck the fact that you're getting with men or women. Like before you even saw romantic love, you had toxic love at home. Not everyone had the privilege of even growing up with healthy parents. So when we have these conversations, I try to go back to the root. Everyone keeps thinking we just like popped into existence as adult women dating adult men. No, we had parents, we had legacy, we had grandparents, we had aunts and uncles, we had somebody before us, right? Imagine, I always joke, my friend, my bestie grew up with parents who took out a line of credit in her name to build her credit. Right? So like they were investing in her before she was like even like conscious. Like they were investing in her. So when she, grew up and she became 18, she was paid off college, 4 years of school completely funded, never paid a bill while she was in school, never had to worry about rent or groceries or her car bill. Absolutely everything was paid for. Versus me, yeah, I turned 18 and my parents were like, you're paying for your own shampoo, shaving blades, grocery, like everything was different, like everything became, but still the fact that I had a job out of high school, the fact that I even, eventually got a car, the fact that all this stuff, like everybody has a different way of engaging in reality, but it always comes back to our childhood and before. Right? Like my parents broke some generational curses. I'm going to break more and so on and so forth. So again, when we have these conversations, just be very empathetic and compassionate to yourself because you didn't just pop into existence.
And not to waste their time still makes sense. It's not me trying to keep women single. It's not me trying to like hoard men. The people saying specifically those two things, that's your pick-meism projected onto me. I am just trying to tell you the truth. I see the statistics. I see how even other decentering men creators talk about the way that they had to help their husband along or intentionally decenter him. I don't make that kind of content because I didn't do it intentionally. But the older that I get and the more other couples that I see and the more I read about people's relationships and observe people's relationships, the more I'm like, I can just tell that it wouldn't work. Like most men would not want me as a wife. Most men would not want a woman who thinks like me, acts like me, talks like me as a wife. And I just happen to be married to one who thinks the same way. And I've never had to explain any of this to him. So that's why I say your time is not going to be well spent. Your time is going to be better spent focusing on you. And then if a unicorn of a man happens to come along, these are like the red flags that
Okay, so because I've dated women and non-binary people, I think it's very similar. I think the only difference is that I haven't had an abusive relationship with a woman or a non-binary person, but I have had it with men. So the difference here is that while I was dating non-binary people or women, I also struggled with them in different ways, or we were just not compatible. But I would say that this focus on it being a man is too heterosexual for me, and I'm too queer, because trans men exist, non-binary men exist. You know what I mean? Male feminists exist, like, or not male feminists, male lesbians exist. Like there's like all these different variations of queerness that I'm willing to engage with that also you would call man or male or something adjacent. So I am too queer for this direct conversation, but I find it to, because women uphold patriarchy. So even if I'm dating a woman, is she a capitalistic woman, a lean-in woman, a girl boss woman? Is she also like an overconsumption woman? Like, I'm not going to be in a relationship with a lot of women either, because a lot of them aren't leftists, anti-capitalists. Like, they're not engaging in philosophy the same way. So if we're just looking at the binary man, woman, like, I'm never going to date a man or a woman. I used to think I was. I used to be at a stage in my life when I was a liberal where I was like, I'm not going to date any queer people or non-binary people. I'm just going to date men and women. And then I was like, fuck that. My mistake. My bad. Deconstruct gender. And then I was like, never mind. I'm only going to date people if they are as a consciousness compatible with me. And anything after that, I don't care. I don't care about their gender identity or what their body looks like or anything. Like, that is all secondary. That just doesn't matter. The consciousness, away from the physical form that they inhabit, that's all I care about. And that's what I'm going to focus on.
you should watch out for so that you don't get love bombed. This is how you handle love bombing. This is how you handle negging. This is how you handle this, that. If a man is doing this, you should leave. That's my content. That's the kind of advice that I give. And that applies very, very much to women that are married, dating, looking to be married, looking to enter relationships with men. All of that content is for women who are looking for relationships also. I am not even trying to keep women single because I know that a lot of
On my Don't Move In With Your Boyfriend video, a lot of people like really struggle with that concept of like, you don't have to sign a lease with someone just because society tells you to, but you can if you want. They were like, this video should be titled How Older Women Want to Keep Younger Women from Dating Men. Or when I say like, you know, there's always this like conspiracy theory that older women are just trying to keep younger girls away from dating these older men. We're trying to keep you from getting killed, but you do you, girly. Okay? You know what I mean? Like, take a risk if you want to take a risk, you know?
women, even still, even now, are going to want to get in relationships. And the best thing I can do is lay in the grass and wait like a snake for them to go through some canon events and then end up in our content niche, which will hopefully get them onto the conveyor belt of decentering men as a general rule. And wherever they want to get off that conveyor belt is none of my business. You know what I'm saying? But I do think that a lot of women are staying on the conveyor belt longer. And I think that's great. And if you're one of those women and you're looking for somebody who's not in a relationship to follow because you want to hear from like specifically single women that plan to stay single, I'm going to tag a bunch of them below. Most of these women are longtime mutuals and people that I have supported, whose content I love, whose content I think is extremely helpful. And so please go follow them if you are ready to sort of move on to the next phase. Because at this point, like this.
And by the way, prior to courting my partner and being in a relationship with them, I was looking at houses, I was looking at loans, I was looking at buying property, I was looking at so many things. Like, I was already investing in my most present, because the idea for my life is like, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do with the circumstances I have, and whatever happens after, whatever. Like, plan for the future, but I never planned for a partner. Like, when I became single for those 3 years between my relationships, I just started living my life. Focused on my dream job, focused on where I wanted to buy a house, focused on what neighborhoods I was going to live in, focused on my family. But like, my focus was me. Like, what do you want, girl? And so I started looking at houses. I started looking at property. I started thinking about where I wanted to put down roots, right? And that's it. Like, that's the idea, is like, some people literally think I can't buy a house until I find a partner. And I'm like, I I don't believe in that. I'm not going to wait. You know what I mean? I'm not going to wait to buy a house because I'm unmarried. Like I'm going to buy a house. You know what I mean? Or, oh, I can't take that job in this town because what if it takes me away from a dating pool? I don't care about that, girl. I'm getting my dream job, right? Like I'm never going to center a relationship or the possibility of a relationship over my most present joy. But I think that's the struggle, is like a lot of people haven't done that yet. They haven't deconstructed that yet. So they will literally not do anything until they're married. And I'm like, but what if that never happens? What if you never get married? You're just going to wait? Like, I'm not going to wait. You know what I mean?
Whole discussion is becoming like cringe and like hard for me to handle. I promise I'm not holding a GUN to your head to follow me. I promise. And while we are having the conversation about who's in leadership, I don't think it would be going out on a limb to say at all that most of us, myself included, would definitely think of Dr. Cecilia Regina when it comes to that position. She's the OG. She's the one most of us, including our own audience members, discovered first. She's been doing the work for a very long time, and she only keeps getting more brilliant. So I think that if that position were even open, it would be filled immediately and it wouldn't even be a question. So just for the record, and she's single and she's definitely not married. And I think most people would absolutely back me up on this. I don't even think that that's a question, for the record. I also think that kind of challenge to make content that specifically caters to like married women is a bit like ironic coming from the creator that it's coming from, because she herself is a lesbian. She's not into men at all. I do think that that's a...
Oh, I wasn't sure. I thought she might be a lesbian, but I wasn't absolutely sure. But she is a lesbian. She is a lesbian. Why is she a... That's what I'm saying, girl. Are you a lesbian? So are you never going to get with a woman because... Wait, what?
Unique and valuable perspective, but it's also interesting hearing somebody who's like not into men sexually or romantically talk about how easy it is to decenter men romantically. Again, I think that that's a very interesting perspective. I think it's an important voice to have in our community, and I think we could have that same kind of respect for each other. Now, this creates...
Wait, what? Yeah, if you're a lesbian, why are you... This is the lesbian.
And I think if she was married to a man, she might not feel like she needed to do that. And I hide my face on my account, and that's for my safety as well, right? I think that single women who truly are not married to men or partnered with men, who are speaking about these same issues, it's more dangerous for them. It is literally more dangerous for them in order to talk about these things.
Why do you act like married women haven't been trafficked by their own husbands or aren't being recorded and put on websites by their own husbands? In which way are women more safe being with husbands compared to single women who aren't being raped by their husbands? If you don't have a husband to rape you, you are literally more privileged. That's how I see it. I am more safe being single than going home with a man who might rape me and post me on the internet. Right? So I'm confused. Like, I'm very confused about these conversations about like what is more safe. It's more safe being single than in a bad relationship. You are literally, you can't experience domestic violence if you live alone, right? So it's just like, I'm a little confused, like about this idea of like, so confused.
Right? So that's kind of the way I feel about it. I hope that
Interesting.
Also did say that a lot of us like don't follow her, like we're not mutuals with her. And there is honestly a reason for that. During the course of this creator making all of these videos,
Lisa is saying 4B is a lesbian, saying this girl's a lesbian, but Lisa is married to a man.
including the first one that I tagged here, she was very comfortable misrepresenting facts and using actual falsehoods to make her points that she otherwise couldn't have made. And when I came forward and corrected her on one of those points, she completely didn't acknowledge me at all, because it would have meant that she couldn't make that point, which is kind of like what one of her criticisms was hinging on. So then she repeated that in a follow-up video, further spreading that falsehood. In a later video, she also, while trying to make a point that like married women stick together, she said that I went live with another creator who was also married. When it was referenced multiple times in that live, how that mutual of mine who will be tagged below, she's Pris the Goddess, it was referenced multiple times throughout that live that she's in fact not even dating. Again, without that falsehood, she couldn't have made the point that we all married women stick together, because we really don't. Most of the creators that I work with and hype up and support for the most part are either single or they're not married because they
But who cares? This point is moot if we are all focused on a collective coalition. See how they're not in coalition? They're not in a collective coalition together. None of this matters. Like, this is all a distraction, and this doesn't matter. You guys are not in community together.
don't want to be married. Even if they have partners, they're typically in like non-traditional arrangements or they're single. But again, she couldn't have made her point without, I don't want to call it intentional lying because I don't know that that's what it was, but that's the reason why I don't follow her and why a lot of my mutuals don't follow her, because she does stuff like this on a constant basis. And we have noticed it. And I used to.
So the pattern is you can't be trusted as one of the people because they don't think you're coming from an authentically good place. Because why the heck are we in competition with one another? Like I said, I will be next to you all in the march, but whether or not we collab together, that might be something else. Like, so again, it's interesting to me, right? Like earlier in chat, people asked me, in stream, they asked me like, what do you think about in real life community building? You know, this is why it's so difficult no matter where you are, online, offline, because the truth is we do go into different everyone does. Conservatives do, liberals do, everyone does. We all, religions, there are Roman Catholics, there are Eastern Catholics, there are all different kinds of Catholics. Like, we're not all the same. Look at the Muslims, the Shia and the Sunni, like everybody, it's like we're all so different. But the point is that like, why can't we just get along? Well, because we fundamentally disagree on philosophy. And that's why it's going to create conflict. And the question is there a silver lining for us? And if not, we wish each other best, but it is what it is. Bubbles are going to bubble, right?
Follow her, and I actually did unfollow her because I don't enjoy the way that she says things like really confidently to make a point, and they will be blatantly untrue. None of us other mutuals would ever talk about each other that way, and that's not somebody I want to associate myself with because of how comfortable they are coming after people based off of like falsehoods. I'm sure there are plenty of valid criticisms she could have made about me without repeating information in a way that like twisted it and misrepresented it in order to make a point.
Sure.
So I just wanted to address that because I know that that might come up as a question. Again, outside of this, I'm really sick of this conversation because again, while I don't necessarily disagree, I just think that was like a wild way to bypass the practical through line with a logical through line that exists, you know, somewhere outside of like the practical. The practical way is that most people, most women are coming to our content from all the way over here, and 4B is a long ways away. So what's going to happen is most people are going to pass through the decentering men bubble, and they will be the most comfortable, and they will be the most familiar, and they will be the most trusting, yes, of women who are either in the same situation as them or have been in the same situation as them, or can talk about their situation without getting frustrated and without being like, don't show us your husband and blah, 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 blah. So that's a bubble that women must pass through. And that's just where I am. I can't help it. And I know that 4B Forever acknowledged that. And like, honestly, props to her for acknowledging it. Again, I think the way that most of us like viscerally reacted is because we ourselves do not view anything as hierarchical. We are genuinely just working alongside each other. But I understand that people perceive our content differently. But my perspective is that this is why that's happening. And it's not because of some like sinister intentions on our part or even the women that follow us part. It's just a process. That's all it is. This can only be solved with time. All right. I hope that those that stayed till the end got all of the answers they were looking for.
Yeah.
Stay safe out there, y'all. I love you so much. Godspeed. Mwah.
Yeah, I think that answered a lot of our questions and probably a lot of questions from other people. That's so interesting. And I'm definitely fascinated by this bubble. And I'm fascinated by everyone's passion. And I'm fascinated by everyone's why. And I think that's why we always have to recenter like why we do things. And that's why I say, like, I don't believe in objective morality. I think we're evolved animals on a planet. And I think we've been taught by the world to think only externally about ourselves and who we think we are and how we feel about ourselves. And you know, you have to deconstruct that, but you need to have a realization that there are billions of people on the planet with billions of ideas, and all of us are truly irreplaceable. And yet we're not special because there are many people like us. So it's kind of one of those things, those two contradictory thoughts you have to hold in the palms of your hand, that I can't replace you and you certainly aren't special. So like your content isn't exactly like your content's replaceable, but you aren't. Does that make sense? Like nothing I am doing couldn't be replaced by somebody else who's doing the same thing, but you'll never be able to quite get Brittany. Brittany is specific. Like there's only one me, girlies. And yet, right? So it's about humility as well, recognizing that, you know, we all have to accept that there's nothing special about us, but yet we show up as main speakers or the people with channels or the people with microphones. Like, but our work is a reflection of where we are. At least mine tends to be. And I think Lisa's trying to say that hers is. And 4B's is too. Like 4B's is also where she is right now. And that's okay. But also you as the audience must have the discernment to say which content is working for you, which content isn't working for you. And to read all books, even bad books, to watch all videos, even bad videos, to recognize which videos are harmful and which videos have some nuggets of wisdom and which videos are, you know what I mean? So, you know, I trust you. If I make a video and I make a statement and you're like, I disagree with Brittany, trust yourself. If what I'm saying doesn't apply to you, valid. If what I'm saying challenges you and makes you feel bad about yourself, deconstruct it either way. But, you know, maybe I'm saying something that in 2 years you'll be like, oh, she was right. Or maybe I'll make a video where you're like, oh, she's so right. And 2 years later, you're like, oh, I think Brittany was wrong about this. It's your life. I do not get a say in your life. Right. So this whole thing stemmed, just a reminder, because I'm assuming we're done with this now, maybe, but it all stemmed from MJ getting married and engaged after saying she was a sprinkle girl and people misunderstood. And Therese talked about this, how MJ was always sprinkle, which means she was always going to marry a man with money because she was always going to be about that bag. Right. Okay. Then categorize her correctly and move on with your life. Right. And so that's the problem is like, if MJ getting married disrupts your sense of being, you never had a sense of being to begin with. Decenter your parents, decenter the world, decenter the fact that you exist, and decenter everything but your joy. Stop looking for a life you think you should have or want and start asking yourself, does this make me joyful? Is this where I'm supposed to be? Am I peaceful? Am I peaceful? And the answer for me is yes, I am very peaceful with my life. That doesn't mean I don't experience stress or the fact that the world is what it is. It means my life, me, I am peaceful, even if the world is in chaos. Me, okay? Because I'm the one who has to go to bed in this body with this brain and this consciousness. I'm the one who has to wake up with this body and this brain and this consciousness, okay? Me, so I am peaceful. It's not a cope, it's real. If I find it becoming a cope, I recalibrate. Because sometimes you will start to, oh, am I coping? Am I coping? Recalibrate. Life is a constant journey of recalibration. Just refoundation yourself, reground yourself. Because yeah, the world will pull you apart, right? You'll pull yourself apart. You could have a bad dream and it pulls you apart. Recenter, reground. Okay? All right, we're done with that topic. Let's do this. Chad says, as a 19-year-old, you have given me so much guidance. Let's go. Are you giving me much guidance? Love that. Honestly. Hey, you did the work though. And that's the other part of this is like, I can't change your life. You're going to change your life, right? Like I can only tell you what I did. I can only give you tools. You got to use the tools. So give yourself the credit, right? Give yourself the focus here. Like you are doing something with what you're learning. You're the one going out and watching the videos. You're the one consuming it. You're driving your train, right? Okay. With that said, let's take a 2-minute break and then we'll get into an ethics conversation about whether or not it's unethical to steal from rich people. I am so looking forward to this. I'm stoked. Let's take a 2-minute break. Okay, I'm back. Pausing 1, 2, 3. I feel like do I have vegan sausage in my teeth? Vegan? Ooh, there's this really amazing vegan chorizo sausage. It's so good. I just asked my partner, I was like, can you go to the store and get me more of these, please? I love them. Also, if you are YouTube members on tier 2, I've been filming every day what I eat in the week to show you my budget and how I do things and how I plan for next week's food schedule. So if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, I'll have the video out. It's Monday, Tuesday of next week, I guess, because I have to finish out the week and start editing. But these sausages are so good. And an animal didn't have to die to feed me. Okay, now, let's watch this. I've been so excited to watch it with you. I have not watched it myself. I hope the whole video is good. I didn't check. All the new people, welcome. I see you. Happy to have you here. Very exciting stuff. If you have any questions, let me know. So, Hassan and who is this lady? New York writer Gia Tolentino and the political commentator Hassan Piker join Sprinkelman for a lively discussion on what's behind this trend. Okay, this trend of stealing from the rich. Steal from the rich and give to the poor. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's see. Let me set up the tech here. All right. So just for the people coming in and new people, my name is Bernice Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture. And though this conversation might sound political, it's very philosophical. Stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. Let's see how the discussion goes and let's ask ourselves these questions. If you've seen the clips already, you know, is it ethical to steal food? Is it good to steal things? What does it mean to steal things? I'm excited to watch it with you. And let's see what our answers are.
I forgot 4 lemons. And on several occasions, I was like, I'm just going to go back, grab those 4 lemons and get the hell out. And
you should go to prison.
Wait, what? Let's start hold on. This is obviously a preview. Let's listen to that again.
I forgot 4 lemons. And on several occasions, I was like, I'm just going to go back, grab those 4 lemons and get the hell out.
Oh, I forgot 4 lemons. So I went back, grabbed them, and okay, interesting.
You should go to prison.
I know. You think they're going to ban me?
They should throw you in jail.
But I didn't feel bad about it at all.
All right.
I'm proposing a new term, microlooting.
I started going into the grocery store, I would pick up the thing that I wanted, and then I would go.
It's a survival technique. Gotta eat to live, gotta steal to eat.
You're paying for that, right?
No, babe, food is a human right.
People are taking small things from big corporations, and they're feeling justified.
Like, look, everyone's shoplifting from Whole Foods when you're shopping there.
You're not gonna steal from a deli like that. But Whole Foods, fuck Whole Foods. Fuck Bezos, fuck Amazon, all that.
We should be rioting, but we're tired, so I'm gonna take these bagels.
But is it a slippery slope? What's going on with our moral code?
Okay, first of all, that was so funny, that last one. You know, we should be rioting, but we're tired, so I'm gonna steal these bagels is hilarious.
Find out. I'm talking to political commentator Hassan Piker and New Yorker writer Gia Tolentino. Thank you both so much for being here with me today to talk about this. Hi,
Okay.
Gia.
Hi.
Hi, Hassan.
Hi.
I want to start with a little exercise just about our own morals. Would you share your Netflix password?
Yes.
I do.
I also do. Well,
Definitely.
With anyone.
For the longest time, I actually had someone else's Netflix password. That was my primary access to Netflix.
And now you
Right.
share your own?
Yeah.
Would you get around a paywall on an article you're trying to read?
Yes, but I also have paid. It depends.
Do it every day on my stream. Every
But I
day.
support it when people do it for my own work. I say, go off. Use the Wayback Machine.
Would you pirate music from an indie band?
Girl, LimeWire much? Wait, define indie band. Hold on. Indie band? Oh, no. No. Like a small band? No, I was thinking Nirvana, which was not, and Sublime was at one point, but they're not. Okay, hold on. Indie band. No, like an independent musical band that has no backing from a company in studio? No, because they're like a mom and pop shop. You don't steal from mom and pop shop. So no, I wouldn't pirate their music. But like a bar band. Chat's like a bar band. No, like I'm not going to pirate their music. Like I'm assuming it's available. It's the internet. Like why would I even need to pirate? Do we even need to pirate music at this point? Wait, I just had this realization. Do you guys even need to pirate music? It's all on YouTube now. So yeah, I wouldn't steal from small creators.
Is it 2005 and I'm using LimeWire?
Yeah, see? Okay, thank you. Like LimeWire, like, oh, indie band. Wait, okay, good.
Because yes.
I feel like every millennial has at some point done
I mean,
this.
I feel like fundamentally Spotify is kind of like deleterious to the musician livelihood, and I use that. But then I go to the shows.
I'm pro piracy all the way, like across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes. If you could, if one could
pirate a car,
it was just a classic thing back in the day. The government funded anti-piracy initiatives would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm like, yeah, sure. If I get away with it, if it was as easy.
Wait, I remember those ads. Those are pretty funny. Okay, I will say the question was indie band, so not to be specific, but if they just mean pirating in general, like, yeah, I'm team pirate. But independent creators, independent people, I really think you should support small creators and not steal from those people in any capacity. But I am team pirate.
Easy as pirating IP, I would do it. Yeah.
Would you dine and dash from your local diner?
No dining and dashing.
Never. Tip 35%. Mike's, come on.
No, I wouldn't do that. And if I saw somebody doing that, I'd probably pay for their meal.
Yeah. Would you steal a book from the library?
Never.
Oh, no. The library? No. Plus, the library has a system. They're going to make you pay for that book anyways. You can't, because you mean steal. Hold on, pause. Hold on. My brain is too funny. Okay. No, because that is a community effort. That's the community coming together. You shouldn't do that to your public libraries.
No.
Would you steal from the Louvre?
Yes.
The Louvre?
I would not be logistically capable of executing such a fact, but would I cheer on every news story of people that I see doing it? Absolutely.
I'm indifferent to this. I don't understand that type of thievery. Look, I'm fuck scammers and fuck thieves. And also, what is really stealing? That's the question, right? Like, scamming is stealing. Like, scamming old people out of their living is fucked up, right? So, like, are these selfish men under patriarchy stealing from the Louvre to then use that money to also, like, fund their lifestyle of abusing women? Like, that's the question. The question is, who is the guy stealing from the Louvre? Like, are they good people? Like, who is stealing? So no, I wouldn't steal from the Louvre because it's crazy. That's the question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We gotta get back to cool crimes like that, like bank robberies, right?
Oh yeah, bank robberies where usually people showed up with guns and scared the fuck out of the tellers and the no, Hassan. Men are so violent. No, Hassan, this is patriarchy coming through your brain. There was nothing cool about bank robberies because you're not just hurting the bank. Like, you could get someone shot, like someone innocent, a mom with her kid. Like, no.
Stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature. I feel like that's way cooler than.
He saw that Nicolas Cage movie and he's like, oh yeah, this is treasure. What is it called? Treasures, whatever.
And the 7,000th new cryptocurrency scheme that people are engaging in.
Mm-hmm. Would you steal from Whole Foods?
You want?
What is up with people's hate for Whole Foods? I guess I didn't really go to Whole Foods. Yeah, National Treasure. Remember that movie? Whole Foods.
Go first.
Okay, I'm so excited for this answer because I don't steal in general. And I have stolen food, but let me just tell you this really fast. I worked in grocery and they would throw away a lot of food and I would eat that food. Or I would take like salad samples when I didn't have money and I would steal that food. It is stealing, but I always had a rule about what I could steal. I couldn't steal fresh food, wrapped food that was not going to be thrown out. And I couldn't just steal food because I would feel like I couldn't justify it. But I think we would all agree you could very much justify taking food that was meant for the dumpster that you knew was perfectly good, that they wouldn't let you take because of, quote, liability. Like, that kind of stealing makes so much sense to me. And that's good stealing. But I think, like, stealing food, like, it depends on the capacity. If you're privileged enough to afford it is bad. But if you can't afford food, I'm not going to shame you for stealing it. I think the problem is like a lot of people who are privileged steal because they have a mental problem. And that's not good. But I do think like that's not good for them. It's not really that it's bad for the company. It's not good for you. I don't want you to have to live with the reputation of being a thief. You know what I mean? I don't want you to have to deal with the fact that you steal when you don't have to, right? Because like that's not a good precedent to set for yourself. But I would say that I will never shame people for stealing when they're hungry and unable to afford food.
Yes. And I have, under very specific circumstances, I think that stealing from a big box store, I'll just state my platform. Mm-hmm. It's neither very significant as a moral wrong, nor is it significant in any way as protest.
Yeah, Chad said if you have to steal something went wrong somewhere. Exactly.
Or direct action. But I did steal from Whole Foods on several occasions.
And yes, chat says I'm worried about workers being penalized for theft, which they are. So that's the other part. I worked in grocery. It will fall on the worker. Like if the worker is, that's why I had to, because at some point, like I had to make a decision of it being a threat to my job. Like certain things I would allow, like when the rotisserie chickens get taken off the store, they debone the rotisserie chickens and put the breast chicken and stuff in the salads, and they throw away the dark meat, you guys. So I would, as not a manager, but a manager in training at the time, I told my employees, I'm going to go to the bathroom for 10 minutes and I'll be back. And during that bathroom break is when my employees would throw away the chicken. And they were really grateful. They were like, oh my God, like, thank you for letting, because they were making like $10 an hour. They were hungry. We were throwing away perfectly good food, but I risked my job in that moment. I did risk it. Now, at the end of the day, you would have to account for everything that was taken from your department. And if the boss thought you were allowing people to steal from the department in any capacity, you could get fired. So I was very careful about in which way none of us would get caught, because I knew that it was the most ethical way to, quote, steal food that you were going to throw away anyways, which is why I never let my employees take food that was not going to get thrown away, because they would get fired and I would get fired. What was the point of that? And I wasn't even a manager, guys. I was a manager in training. I wasn't even getting the manager journeyman pay, by the way. I was still making the same as anybody else, but I was working and training as a manager, which I obviously was not made for. I quit soon after. So I'm very careful and cautious about the way I engage in ethics and morals for this reason alone, because it's not just about you in that singular moment getting fed. It's about how it impacts the community.
It's like, I've been involved in like a neighborhood mutual aid group since 2021. And so
okay, wait, chat says, why don't they give the excessive food to the employees? Because they think if they know that's a rule, the employees will purposely hoard food during the day and not sell it. So they're worried about their profit. That's their logic. That's what I was told. I was told that if we allow employees to eat the food that was left over, then they would purposely not sell food for that reason. But that's bullshit.
Every week I would go get groceries for Miss Nancy, my now family friend who lived nearby, and she wanted to go to Whole Foods. She wanted food from Whole Foods. So I was like, okay, great. And so I'd be getting Miss Nancy all her groceries, and then I would finish and I'd be like, oh my God, 4 lemons. I forgot 4 lemons. And on several occasions I was like, I'm just going to go back, grab those 4 lemons and get the hell out. And
you should go to prison.
I know. You think they're going to ban me?
But like, what's the reason for that? I don't get the reason. Why didn't you pay for the lemons? I've never done that. Like, I have never walked into a store and felt confident taking food and leaving, because that doesn't make sense to me unless I'm starving or somebody's hungry. Like, you just didn't want to sit in line? Like, I'm confused by this story.
They should throw you in jail.
But I didn't feel bad about it at all.
And was part of it because of how you feel about Whole Foods as a corporation?
Yeah, it already felt like a bit of a compromise. Like at the time I was like, I had not been to Whole Foods. I had a bit more sort of consumer discipline about where I was spending my money then. And I already felt like I was in the hole even by shopping there. And it certainly felt in a utilitarian sense. I was like, this is not a big deal.
Well,
right, guys?
I'm pro stealing from big corporations because, you know, they steal quite a bit more from their own workers. However, one thing that might even help your ethical dilemma is the fact that the automated process that they design, these companies know will increase shrink, right? So it's actually factored in. The lemons that you stole are factored into the bottom line.
Yeah, Chad says, as a Black woman, this is so opposite of my experience. I'm afraid that stores already think I'm stealing, so I'm very vigilant about having my receipts out and everything. Yeah, I think that's the dilemma, is like, I'm not even a Black woman, but I have an anxiety over, like, there's cameras, my reputation. Like, I would be kind of mortified, honestly, if like YouTuber Brittany Simon caught stealing lemons. Like, where's the justification too? How would I even justify it? You know what I mean? Like, how would I even justify that I took lemons? You know, what would be the reason? Now, I fully, with my full chest, will say I ate food they were going to throw out. You're not going to make me feel bad about that. But in my ethical framework, I couldn't even imagine like stealing clothes I didn't need or makeup I didn't need or food. Like, I don't even know what would be my reasoning. You know what I mean? And then I'm already mortified. Like, oh my God, one time I was at Walmart and the guy was like, I need to check your receipt. And I was like so offended because I was like, I know I paid for everything. And I actually had accidentally forgotten about something and I felt so embarrassed. Like, I feel that embarrassment because I have money. I don't need to steal it. And also, if I didn't have money and I needed to steal it, that would mean like I needed help. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, maybe that's it too. Like, in an ideal society, we wouldn't have people who are struggling enough to steal. And also in an ideal society, we would hold people accountable for stealing because we would assume that it was only bad people stealing, but good people steal too. But it's weird for her in this situation to talk about stealing lemons. I'm not quite sure I get it.
Of these mega corporations regardless, and they still end up having increased profit margins because they no longer have to pay the cashiers.
And it was a mistake, by the way. I really did forget to scan this item. I thought I did, but I didn't. And so like, again, another opportunity to humble yourself, but
that they used to hire as opposed to this automated system, knowing full well that people are still going to be able to still steal a lot more efficiently, as a matter of fact, through the automated process.
Totally. Well, I was looking things up, and shrinkage is...
Also, I don't know if this woman is rich, but Hassan is rich enough to pay his fees. Minority people in these situations, if they are caught, I mean, they could end up having a record that could set them, they could get kicked out of their housing. So I just want to make it clear, this is a very privileged conversation. And you should be very careful about the repercussions of this, not even just outside of an ethical position, but I would be terrified for kids to hear this and like, oh yeah, I'm going to steal because Hassan said it's okay, or this girl said it's okay, but like they have money to get themselves a lawyer. Please wait. Be very, that's what I would tell young men, because I noticed when I worked at the grocery store, young men would steal. I'd be like, hey, you weren't sly about that. This could go on your record. You need to protect yourself. Okay, you're a brown guy in a white world. You need to be careful about stealing food. And I would teach them how to take food that would get them in less trouble, like the rotisserie chickens that were going to get thrown away. So I would be like, don't steal this sandwich. Here's some chicken, And like, that's how I would do it. I'd be like, here's this here. Like, we're going to eat this. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, if you're going to teach people to steal, teach them to steal with the least amount of legal repercussion, because
is roughly equal internally as externally. Like they expect it.
Exactly. Chat says rich people steal for thrill and poor people do it to survive. Exactly why this conversation feels crazy to me at this very moment. But who knows? Maybe it will change.
Employees that they are sort of disenfranchising constantly.
Yeah. But what about the argument that if everyone just starts stealing wantonly from these self-checkout machines, Whole Foods will eventually raise the prices?
Yeah, full chaos. Let's go. I mean, look, I'm in favor of fast and free buses and also government-owned storefronts. And, two of those policies, the mayor of this beautiful city is currently working on.
Would you encourage stealing in the same way from a Mamdani-run city-owned grocery store with lower prices? And why?
I would not. Because I feel like that's taxpayer funded, and the prices are this union labor, and the prices are also adjusted regardless.
I think that hypothetical is interesting, right? Because if you look at it from a categorical imperative type thing, what if everybody did this? The converse is like, oh, what if every major grocery chain stole from workers and consumers? And that is basically true, right? Like, it's interesting. Like, I think it speaks to the thing where a kind of harm committed by the individual strangely continually draws more ire than the same harm being committed by structure. And so I kind of am inclined towards this. It's like, everyone try it, see what happens.
Yeah. Well, by the way, ironically enough, I don't personally do it. I never do it. When I was younger, I stole some Pokemon cards from a friend, and my father punished me, and it was such a harrowing experience that I literally can't even steal like a candy bar. When we were in college, a lot of my friends used to love doing that. Getting drunk, going to the gas station, 5-finger discount. I would never participate in it, and I still can't to this day participate in it. I'm just saying that I personally don't really care. If someone needs the food, they should absolutely steal it.
There's one thing that's like stealing when you're a teenager and you want the adrenaline rush, and part of it is about testing the rules and getting away with something. But I feel like what I'm seeing on TikTok and social media is people saying that they're stealing from Whole Foods, not just for the thrill of it, but out of a feeling of anger and moral justification, because the rich don't play by the rules. So why should I? And Jeff Bezos has too much money. He's a billionaire. So why should I have to pay for organic avocados?
Now, hold on. Chad said you quoted me, here's some chicken. And you said, why teach them crime instead of teaching them how to food banks work? If you're asking me, right, food banks run out of money, and food, and so if you're like too far in the line, you won't get it. Food banks aren't always accessible, and this food was going to be thrown out anyways, right? So yeah, if you're talking to me personally about my chicken story, I would just say like they're throwing away chicken that is perfectly good that I made that morning, and they don't want to feed it to employees. And so why would I let this food go to waste? Like, I'm very anti-food waste, and I learned in grocery, like, how much food waste exists. So I take it as a personal issue. Like, same thing with like people's obsession with getting the milk carton that's like the third back, or the juice carton that's third back. Guys, you are creating food waste. grab the carton that's going to expire the soonest and drink it. You know what I mean? Every time you skip it and everyone after you skips it, those are all bottles of milk that a cow was artificially inseminated and, you know, raped basically to get you a glass of milk you never drank, and or just don't drink it at all and let's end milking industries and dairy industries altogether. But every time you reach for the one in the back, you're just creating food waste, right? So I would love to see a world where stores just fed employees. You know, out of high school, I worked at In-N-Out. And you know why I recommend working at In-N-Out? Because I assume it's still this way. In-N-Out feeds you. You get fed a whole meal at In-N-Out. You never have to pack a lunch because they feed you. Every business should be feeding their employees. That's my philosophy. I think every single business that hires an employee should guarantee lunch.
My friends and I have started calling this micro looting because it has a like slight political valence to the theft as opposed to just the thrill of getting away with something. Have you noticed this around you online? Have you noticed more people talking about stealing in this way?
I mean, I have not seen people talking about microlooting or such, you know, whatever action that this
I haven't either. This is my first time hearing it too.
Is online, but I think, I mean, it kind of speaks to an attenuation of the tactical language of direct action. You know what I mean? Like, it's like if it's like, it doesn't work for me as a form of direct action because it's concealed, right? Like any successful direct action in history has to be ostentatious, has to make itself known, is ideally collective. And this is sort of necessarily individual and hidden. But I'm like, oh, great.
Sure. Chad said, I'm not saying your intentions are wrong. I think you have a good heart, but it's still theft. And I know friends that have done the same thing and lost their jobs. Yeah, I was risking losing my job, right? Absolutely. Right? But you have to understand, right? When you're in a position where all you can afford for lunch that day is $1.25 worth of food, like with peace and love, you know what I mean? We don't live in an ideal world. And that's really fucked up. So it's worth the risk because at this point, you're not even making enough to feed yourself anyways. You have to understand these people are not making enough to feed themselves, right? So it's a temporary reaction to survival. You're in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, that's different than living mode. Example, I make enough money now. I don't need to steal food. It would be unethical if I stole food when I can afford it. These people can't afford food. They can't afford it, right? So like you have to feed people. And that's why we were very cautious and good about the way we did it. And no one ever got fired because we were strategic. Okay. And again, we did something within reason that most people would get behind within reason because the food was going to be thrown out anyways. So we guaranteed an outcome that would be better for people. Again, because we're surviving. So again, yes, if you do it a certain way. That way it brings down the probability of being fired. But yes, we are all risking our jobs.
Let's think of ways to like, let's take this energy and let's move it into some other thing. Like, I think it's great that the valence of property is kind of on the table as something to be toyed with in terms of direct action. I feel like we've forgotten there's a long and storied history of sabotage and sort of engagement with property destruction even, which is abhorrent to people. I mean, you remember in 2020, the like Gucci, Chanel stuff in Soho when that was looted.
Well, NYPD is investigating a robbery pattern targeting high-end clothing boutiques in Soho. Latest happening Tuesday at the Chanel on Spring Street.
That looms so much larger in many sort of...
Also, look at the patriarchy of it all. Look at this is groups of men. Right? There's always an element of like, you have to understand a lot of men that are thieves, a lot of men that scam, they do it through patriarchy and capitalism having a baby. When women are trying to feed their communities, it is not the fucking same thing. I'm trying to feed boys who were never taught how to feed themselves. You're looting jewelry to use on what? You know, that's not the same thing. So do not put us in the same category, okay? These men are not fighting for the liberation of their people by stealing necklaces. Women are taking food that was meant for the dumpster and giving it to babies to feed them. So just a reminder, we are not the same.
Happening Tuesday at the Chanel on Spring Street.
That looms so much larger in many sort of Bloomberg liberals' imaginations as profoundly more violent in some ways than the original action being protested, right? And I find that really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the Boston Tea Party as part of like, that's a political destruction of property. And yet right now it feels like, I agree with you, the looting around the 2020 protests was such a huge talking point. It made people so uncomfortable. And I'm curious why, like, what do you think the root of that is?
I was thinking, you know, that thieves are actually quite highly valorized in narrative, you know? I mean, Aladdin, famously.
Robin Hood, Jean Valjean.
Right? Yeah, Jean Valjean.
True.
We understand it's well within the collective consciousness that stealing for need or purpose, you know, it's something that we we understand and feel.
Yeah, I agree. This chat said most homeless or unhoused folks have jobs, and a huge percentage have full-time jobs. That's the problem. We're working with not a reasonable wage. You know, the job market is crazy right now. Like, I am not going to hold it against people for stealing food when they're hungry, right? I would love to say that, you know, again, surviving is different than living. They're just different, right? Chaz, I hear what you're saying. It's not the same thing, but unfortunately, you're both going to jail, right? Isn't that the outcome? No. It's not the guaranteed outcome. It's different. It is different. And that's the problem. It's not the same. If you steal a certain amount of items at a certain price, you will get a felony. If you don't steal as much, you won't get a felony, right? Like, you have to remember that thievery isn't the same in all counties and all countries. It depends on what you're stealing. That's why you teach people to steal in a way that doesn't guarantee prison time or a federal thing on your record, a felony. Okay? If you steal a certain amount, it could be a felony. So you teach people how to survive until they don't have to do that anymore. So it's not the same results. That's what I'm saying. I used to watch people pack a grocery cart full of groceries and diapers for their kids and leave the store. And I would just be like, bye. They weren't facing felonies. They weren't going to face jail time. They were facing a ban from the store, or maybe they were banned. But like, I'm not going to stop them. Stealing food and diapers, you know what I mean? And most of the security is not going to stop them either. And most people aren't going to stop them. Because again, like, first people have to report it. And then people have to arrest them. And it's like, why are you arresting people for stealing diapers and food? You know what I mean? So it's a system that we as a people have to come together, right? Did you see the story about a disability activist out of Australia? There was handicap parking, and the guy at the zone wouldn't let his mom pick him up because she didn't have a permit. Homie, you want every person who picks him up from the airport to have a permit? Like, go fuck yourself. Use your common sense. And I know common sense isn't common, but use your humanity and let this man get picked up by his mother. That's what I'm saying. At some point, we as a collective have to do right. The bosses that are watching, the people that are watching, the security that's working, we have to come together to, like, let things happen, right? That's what I'm saying. Chad said, but you're saying you guys had an entire group doing this at work. You guys did this over and over again. So not only is it no longer petty theft, it's a crime syndicate working legally speaking. Jesus Christ, you must be fun at parties. A syndicate crime? Are you guys, please smoke a joint and relax. We are born free. Captive by capitalism and like crime syndicate. We are a bunch of people in our 20s who couldn't afford rent. Please take a deep breath. Jesus Christ, like, these people are literally making $10 an hour and rents fucking $800 to $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Please breathe. Like, this is what I'm saying. Are you an op? Do you work for the CIA? Are you an FBI agent? Why are you arguing this in my chat? You, girly, look in the mirror. Why are you advocating so hard for the state right now? That's what I'm saying. Jesus Christ. Like, come on.
Quite friendly towards. And I think if someone were, let's say, walking out of Whole Foods with an IKEA bag of whatever and giving it to the people, you know, sheltering underneath the scaffolding at the jail going up in Brooklyn next door, you know, like, I think most people would agree that, you know, like, if someone were to be stealing with a purpose, we love that in America. We do. We can love it again. We just have to do it with a purpose.
I was reading a Pew Research poll about Americans' morality, and it basically was just like, well, we didn't even ask about the obviously immoral things like
Brittany Simon, Tony Soprano. Brittany Soprano. Hey, Brittany Soprano, stop it. You want some deli meat? I got a rotisserie chicken right here, baby, barbecue flavor. Like, come on now.
We only asked about like having an affair. And I was like, but I feel like part of what I'm seeing around me is that people feel like the laws are immoral. The rich don't play by the rules. We live in a society where there are billionaires, where the top 1% holds 32% of the net worth and the bottom 50% holds 2.5%. So at some point, if the laws don't feel moral, do you start to question your own sense of having to abide by them?
Of course.
Yeah. I wanted to work off of a point that you were making. This was also something that was addressed in a previous New York Times podcast that I did with Rouse Douthat, where I brought up the concept of
Okay, homie, I think you're maybe too young for this class. You said, hold on, what am I saying that's wrong? I'm just literally saying what the law is, and why am I wrong? You don't know what the law is. You don't know what the law is. You guys act like you care about us, but you don't, and this is proof. Habibi, you don't know what the law is. I'm telling you right now, you don't know. I'm gonna ban you because you're not ready for this class, okay? You can keep watching, and maybe when you grow up a little bit, you don't care. You don't know the law, okay? This is the problem. Law and morals different. We fight every day. We put our lives at risk every day. Fuck your laws, okay? Queer people, gay people, trans people, we wake up every day and exist against the law. And you're not gonna sit there and hold it over our heads and say, don't be gay, you might go to prison. Go fuck yourselves, okay? Don't have kids, you might go to prison. Don't have an abortion, you might go to prison. Go fuck yourselves. How about you have no right to tell me to go to prison for having an abortion? How about you have no right to tell me to go to jail because I'm trans? Like, hello? Focus, lock in. Oops, hello.
Adventurism. In the Marxist tradition, adventurism is the action that is oftentimes decentralized. Oftentimes anarchists will say this is the propaganda of the deed. The action itself, no matter how violent or how disruptive it is justifiable because the disruption is the point. I believe in the power of organized labor and labor militancy and building these structures of power so that we can actually make more effective change, more longstanding change.
Don't you love too how these billionaires put you in a position to barely be able to do anything? Medical care, housing care, education care, and then God forbid you steal a $2 sandwich and they're like, prison, jail. Excuse me? Trump wants to bring back shooting squads. What are they called? Like, go fuck yourselves with your high and mighty morals. Like, yes, I would not encourage young people to steal unreasonably. I would not just tell you to go steal a PS5. And I would tell you, within context, I'm never going to judge somebody for stealing clothes, shoes, food, right? They tried to do this during Katrina. Claim people were looting because they were stealing clothes. Hello, they had been in swamp water for 7 days because the U.S. government was trying to paint them as criminals. Don't sit there and believe this propaganda from your fucking government that would be more than willing to kidnap you off the street if it was convenient for them. Do not ever take the side of a government that is willing to literally kill people in the name of justice and paint you as a terrorist because you decided to fight back. Do not get it twisted who's on your side. Okay, this government is not on your side. The law is not on your side.
So concepts such as micro looting indicate that there is an energy there, just like you said.
The micro looting becoming a trend is a testament to how horrible the world is. Focus.
And yet many Americans, I think, are totally oblivious to this political language. They lack the political education. They lack the class consciousness to recognize their position in society, and lack the capacity, unfortunately, to engage in some kind of organized disruption that would be infinitely more effective.
I think what you were saying about people lack the language and the organizing structure to engage in, like the obvious thing to do if you want to chip into the Whole Foods / Amazon mega structure of exploitation is to unionize, like to work at a Whole Foods and form a union. And I think the first one was formed recently in Philly, I think. But, I mean, it's like micro.
How about this? The fact that we even have to form unions in the first place. That's why capitalism is trash. Capitalism is such an evil system that workers even have to form unions. Why should workers even have to? Do you know what I'm saying? Why in the world do I need to argue with my employer? My employer needs to fight me, and we have to have this middleman that I'm paying a paycheck to. When I worked in grocery, I had to pay into a union. By the way, I didn't have any money to pay into this union, but I had to do it to work there. Why the fuck was I making $10 an hour paying into a union that I had to argue with my boss about giving me fair wages and hours? All of you can go fuck yourselves. All of it is bad. All of it is bad. We shouldn't even have to be having this. And why was I paying it? Why was I paying as much as I was? Guys, it was so much money. It was so much money to a union. For what? And I'm, by the way, pro-unions in theory. But why the fuck do I need a union in the first place? What the hell? And again, I support unions, but what the fuck?
Looting, it feels akin to a posting about something. It's a kind of, as an atomized individual action, it's useless. It's much harder to get a job and accept $17.50 an hour, and then to organize your colleagues, a process that takes years and is often unsuccessful. I mean,
I like how she said $17.50 an hour when I was talking about making $10 an hour, or 15, 17. Are you guys making 17? No, minimum wage is still federally $7. You know what I mean?
That's really, the thing about actual collective direct
She must be, is that the minimum wage in New York?
action. It's so much harder. And it often doesn't profit you whatsoever, such as, me getting an extra $10 by grabbing my extra loaf of bread from Miss Nancy.
And yes, I agree that unions are essential, right? The worker death rate would be insane. And I'm not anti-union, but I'm saying how fucked is it that we even need a union, right? That's always how my brain works. Wait, why do I even need this in the first place? Capitalism is shit.
I do think we are also lazy as humans. We're also selfish. We also, we've lost not only the language and the union density and the structure to engage in things like this, but we have also lost the sort of muscle that is built up to be able to engage in these sort of things. We've lost the rooms in which these things are planned,
Yeah. And the confidence. I think we've lost the confidence within ourselves because there is not a lot of action like this. And in the absence of that, we lack the willpower, because we don't even know what that would look like.
And the climate protests in Europe tend to be more militant, right, than the ones that are here. And they are, blocking roadways, like these things that are even...
Chaz said humans are lazy, ? I don't know what that's a reference to, but laziness is a construct of capitalism. Human beings are not lazy. It's a myth of capitalism that humans are lazy.
Objectively, completely nonviolent forms of obstruction and interference that don't even involve property destruction, but merely the interruption of the capital flow of the workday, are criminalized to shocking degrees to me, even in Europe, And I guess I'm saying, maybe we're getting the lack of courage is maybe a rational response to the kind of the way these actions are treated in the popular consciousness as well as by the criminal justice system, but they shouldn't be.
I want to get back a little bit to the anger underneath this. In 1965, CEOs were paid 21 times the average worker. In 2024, CEOs are paid 281 times the average worker. I feel like some of this is coming from a feeling of the social contract is broken. And then there's also the slippery slope of what happens if we completely break the social contract and no one plays by the rules anymore. And I wonder where you two see the interplay of those two ideas.
Well, the rules are already designed in a way.
Oh, I didn't hear the podcaster. Sorry, streamers. We're listening and reading chat. She said we're lazy. Let me go back.
Social contract and
they shouldn't be. The way we're in are more.
We don't even know what that would look like.
And the climate protests in Europe tend to be.
Where did she say it? Damn.
More militant, right, than the ones that are here, and they are. Forms of obstruction and are criminalized to shocking.
Shoo, I don't know where she said it. Damn. Well, I'll say this. I don't know who said lazy and I don't know what the context was, but I think laziness is a myth.
Of what happens if we completely break the social contract and no one plays by the rules anymore. And I wonder where you two see the interplay of those two ideas.
Well, the rules are already designed in a way.
Oh, hold on. I think I forwarded it too long.
The slippery slope of what happens if we completely break the social contract and no one plays by the rules anymore. And I wonder where you two see the interplay of those two ideas.
Well, the rules are already designed in a way where if you steal from the poor, you become rich. If you steal from the wealthy, you go to prison. So there's only one direction where you can do unlimited theft and erode the social contract for the 99%. There's an invisibility baked into the system that allows the wealthy to engage in this sort of behavior. Because it's a cliche at this point, but wage theft is the most consequential amount of theft that takes place in the United States of America. A similar invisibility exists in structural violence as opposed to individual acts of violence as well. If it's a police officer engaging someone violently, the automatic assumption from the average person is, oh, that's probably a criminal. They probably deserved it. But if there's any circumstance where someone else is fighting back against police, like in a normal protest environment, for example, ultimately, most people assume that is chaotic. There's a chaotic situation. And that it is born out of the escalations from the protesters themselves, even if, as regular citizens, we're infinitely closer to those exercising their First Amendment rights than those with the power stamping out people exercising their free speech rights. We never look at systemic forms of violence, and we don't look at systemic forms of theft in the same way that we do as individuals breaking that social contract.
I think there is, in my ideal world, what we are talking about, the one kind of theft being inescapable and hegemonic and, completely oppressive. And then people trying to get a little bit of it back through stealing from Whole Foods or whatever, right? It's in the ideal world. It is not one in which this continues and this increases to somehow even it out, right? The ideal world is one in which the theft from above is broken by regulatory means and or bottom up means like unionization, right?
You were just talking about not being we should encourage wanton theft across the board, but we should try and fight against the theft that comes from the top. It feels difficult right now in a moment when to like hope for regulatory change,
Yes,
when
it
that would come from the government, let's say. And a lot of the billionaires like Bezos and Cook and Elon Musk are given a seat at the table in terms of the government itself, when billionaires themselves pay much lower tax rates than most Americans. My producer was just giving me this fact that she saw today. 88 corporations that made $105 billion in profits in 2025, including Tesla, Southwest, United, Live Nation, Disney. They made $105 billion in profits, and they collectively paid income taxes of $0.
Right. I mean, it's a far more consequential withdrawal of resources and trust from the public sphere to do that, to talk about any individual thing that any person has ever done. Right. Like, it's like, and I think, I mean, the 1%, the top 1% of Americans, 20% of their income is withdrawn from, is withheld from reporting every year, like, as just a standing statistic. And that's not even a corporate structure. That's not even, I mean, that's just ordinary rich people, you know?
Okay, to go back, you were talking about sort of what you do see as effective political protest. And recently a employee of Set fired Kimberly Clark Warehouse as a protest.
Yeah.
Is that an effective form of political protest, or is that purely violent?
No, I found it, that you got to be tactical. I mean, I feel like Mike Davis wrote about this. It's like, it's not the action, it's the context in which it exists. And do I think that some sort of fire could hypothetically be framed within a collective action that is tactically useful? Yes. Does a disgruntled guy burning down the warehouse do it for me in terms of effective political action? Not at all. But I do.
Yeah, my opinion on that was just like, well, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for the employees, and it doesn't help anyone, and he did it alone. If a man acts alone, I don't think it's about the collective, because where was the political action associated with it, right? That's why I question Luigi, because I'm like, did you do this alone? I just think like singular action is still individual American thinking or US thinking. So then I question men's use of violence if it's not on behalf of the collective, engaging with a collective group, and it's not, you know what I mean? I question that. Though I understand like there's still a lot of political prisoners. There's a lot of people in a lot of liberation movements that are still serving time in prison. And so we have to understand like it's a big deal to ask people to protest, and it's a big deal that we do not protest. Like, it's very difficult, right, to live in a world where we're talking about social injustice, and then we also like have the setting of this interview. This is so multi-layered. I mean, you could argue that even this interview is so performative, right? We have got Hassan in this like $200 shirt, and like this girl and whatever, who knows what brand she's wearing, right? We have like this setting that just feels in of itself kind of like laughable to people making $7 a fucking hour who have to pinch pennies just to make sure they, you know what I mean? Like, it is a different kind of thing. I mean, again, you know, this conversation is multi-layered, and the problem is like, we're not being realistic. And at the same time, how can you be realistic in a world where these billionaires are running wild and like they're being so deeply cruel and unnecessarily like vicious and so entitled? And we have Netanyahu making speeches about it's better to be Genghis Khan than Jesus Christ. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you know? So it's so hard. It's so layered. It's so intense. And ultimately, I think that's why we need to focus on children. Like, you see how none of these conversations center around children. None of the focus is around the vulnerability of the communities. None of it is like, if adults really sat in boardrooms and thought, how does this benefit children? We'd be having different conversations. The fact that I saw you guys talking about child labor in the chat, conservatives are trying to put kids back to work. You have to remember, in this country, in the USA, we had to create child laws to protect children from working because parents were having them to work. That still happens on a global scale. So nobody cares about kids, and so nobody cares about adults, and the cycle continues. We must center our compassion on the most vulnerable, and that would rework the whole system, because then we would care about the quality of life that children are being born into. We would care about the quality of life that women were experiencing or people were experiencing while giving birth. We would care about the quality of life of food and shelter and education. But because we don't think about kids and we think of them as just a means to an end, right? And that includes naming your kids after yourself and calling them Junior. Okay, then we cannot value humanity for what it is, because we don't even care about the most sacred part of us in terms of our beginning stages, right? And I don't mean that in a pro-life way. Just, okay.
Sabotage has played a formative role in labor union.
Everything.
Yeah, labor unions as well. But if it's conducted unilaterally, then it's entirely different.
And that's an individual action. And if he could have gotten away with it without being caught, I bet I mean, I didn't follow this case very closely, but it seemed like, like anything done by an individual on an emotional, on a kind of primarily emotional whim. That's not the point. That's not the point.
But then when you feel this much anger and it doesn't feel like there's hope for it to be changed in a regulatory way, I think that's when you get to things like killing the CEO of United Healthcare and there being an outpouring of glee for murder online because it feels like finally someone can actually do something about healthcare. I think 40% of Gen Zers felt that that murder was morally justified. But it's scary to be in a society where people feel that murder is morally justified. And I'm curious how we thread that line.
I'm sorry, are you vegan? I'm sorry. Are you vegan? Like, just kidding. You know what? Listen, girls, I might be vegan after all. I'm sorry, are you vegan?
Yeah. Engels wrote about the concept of social murder. And Brian Thompson, as the United Healthcare CEO, was engaging in a tremendous amount of social murder, the systematized forms of violence, the structural violence of poverty, the for-profit paywalled system of healthcare in this country. And the consequences of that are tremendous.
And by the way, that's why I think I'm probably going to be vegan eventually, because I really think we are way too casual with the way that we take life. And I know it's a biological experience. I know you're an animal on a planet, girlies. I know you naturally want to take a person's life, but I'm saying, what if we didn't? What if we had a deeper relationship with our biological experience where we didn't revel and glorify and sit in boardrooms trying to figure out the best way to take a human life or take an animal life? Like, what if we really sat there and thought, why should I be responsible for taking a human or non-human life? Like, I think that's why I will be vegan one day, because I'm not willing to kill the animal myself. And so I'm not willing to harvest it myself, which means I'm not willing to eat it. I'm not willing to do it. And I just don't want that. I don't need to kill something to eat, so I'm not going to. If I'm in a situation where I have to kill something to eat or I have to defend my life against an intruder, like directly, that's another conversation. And I don't believe in objective morality. So I think there's something there. Same with stealing, guys. Like, same with stealing. I can justify stealing food that's going to be thrown away. And I think all of us as a society should agree with that. I don't think there's one person in the world that should sit there and say, well, you shouldn't steal food that's going to be thrown away. It's still stealing. You're a bad person. If you think that, you're a bad person. And with that said, I still would not tell on somebody. Like, when I saw people stealing from like a bag of chips, I did not tell on people. I'm not going to tell on you for buying a bag. I'm not even going to, honestly, if I'm going to be real with you, I don't really believe in reporting like theft from stores in the sense that I know there's insurance to cover this. And also, why would I ruin and derail this whole person's life off a bag of fucking chips? Like, you're so fucked up. And there was a woman I used to work with. She used to hate me at the grocery store. This woman would hate me. She would follow me around the store because I was kind of known as like loosey-goosey on the rules in this sense. And she'd be like, Brittany, you can't let people get away with stuff. I was like, I just didn't see him do it. She's like, you didn't see him steal it? And I was like, I must have missed it. There were 14-year-old kids. You want me to call the police on a 14-year-old kid stealing Cheetos? I was like, I guess I just didn't see it. She's like, you didn't see it. And I was like, I don't know. And I get why she didn't like me, because I was like, I don't know. I must have missed it. I mean, I was like 21 years old. I could barely afford my own place. I was renting a room. I could barely afford my own grocery bills. What the fuck do I care about some kid? And this was a different stage of my life. I've worked in a lot of grocery stores and I've worked in Washington State, California State. I've worked for Kroger. Actually, I worked for Ralph's, I think, which is owned by Kroger. So I guess I've always worked for Kroger, but I've worked in multiple states and multiple stages of my life. And so, like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want me to call on somebody for, bro? Like, what do you want me to derail their whole life for? Why do you revel in someone's like suffering in such a way? I'm just, you know what I'm saying? And that wasn't even when I was like a manager or whatever. Like, that was when I was like a bagger, like, you know, bagging at the front. And that's when I worked in rotisserie chicken later. But the Seattle time was when I was working to be a manager, maybe, right? I didn't even get there. But that was in California, this story. But why would I do this? Like, why would I turn this kid in? Okay. Or in Seattle, as an example, there was a woman, I remember seeing her. I remember I was checking my lanes and I saw her and she kind of looked at me like this. And she was in the kids aisle, like the diaper aisle. And it was formula. And she looked at me and I said, and I walked away. I was like, this. And I saw her like breathe a sense of relief. Why would I take it from this woman? How could you ask me to take that from this woman? Do you know what I'm saying? It's baby formula. Relax. I think you can handle it, Kroger. That's what I'm saying. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Formula is very expensive. Sometimes my partner and I, we go through the grocery store here at Croatia and we look at the prices of formula and we go, oh, we look at diaper prices and go, and we're not even having kids. We've decided not to have kids. But I do this to deeply empathize with parents because I want you to remember, because I think people forget how expensive things are. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're not going to make me feel bad that I'm not calling the police on someone stealing. Chat says Brittany being like, I need glasses, I guess. Yeah, I guess I need to check my prescription. You know, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like,
tremendous amounts of pain, tremendous amounts of violence, tremendous amounts of deaths. And that was a fascinating story for me because America's very draconian.
Now, if I see someone, like if there's like a really, really evil person who's like going around a mom and pop shop being like, I'm going to steal from this fucking old lady. I fucking hate this lady. Like, oh, I'm calling the police on you. You know what I mean? If you're like, or I'm going to tell you off first, but like if I see like a grown man who's 45 years old being like, I hate these, like insert hate crime here. Okay, well now we got problems. Do you know what I'm saying? If there's a lesbian vegan bodega and they're selling vegan shakes and some person's like, fuck these lesbians. Okay, now we have a problem. You can't steal from the lesbians, sir. You know what I mean?
About crime and punishment. They're very black and white on this issue. And yet, because of the pervasive pain that the private healthcare system had created for the average American, I saw so many people immediately understand why this death had taken place. Even before they knew who the shooter was or what the motive was, we had universalized this pain, so much so that virtually every American has a similar experience, a shared experience, where they have a loved one that spent their last days, instead of spending them with their family, spending it on the phone, talking to their healthcare provider.
It is a very a U.S. trauma that I hesitate to go to the doctor. Like in Croatia, my partner has to remind me, you will not have a bill. Like they have to remind me that like we pay health. I do pay health insurance as a visa person here, but I still have trauma over going to the doctors in America in the US because I paid so much in medical debt, or I've had to go to collections, that he was like, Brittany, you can go to the doctor here. The insurance will pay for it unless we go to a private person. And even if we go to a private person, again, like you pay into a system. And I was like, yeah, I pay. Like US is the richest, quote, most powerful country. And it is absolutely neglecting their citizens. And the citizens, by the way, you have to liberate yourself from the way you've engaged in this propaganda, embodied this propaganda. Like American citizens are self-harming, and this is bigotry and racism. It's not just capitalism, it's racism, it's bigotry. It's people willing to see their own kids starve and not get educated just to keep it out of the hands of other people, other marginalized people. So remember, like your bigotry, this is a philosophy channel, you must deconstruct your own bigotry for the sake of yourself. It will benefit you. You are not benefited by carrying the burden and curse of racism in your heart, homophobia in your heart, transphobia in your heart. You're not benefiting you. You're not actually liberating yourself. You are self-harming. So if you're so selfish that you don't want to do it for the sake of others, do it for the sake of yourself. But you see how you can't even do it for the sake of yourself? Amazing. What an amazing position you have put yourself into.
Provider to maybe get a little bit of economic respite so they don't carry on medical debt for their next generation, for their next of kin. That's a harrowing process for a lot of people. And for them, that is murder. For them, that is torture. And that is the reason why I think the reaction to Luigi Mangione, especially by younger generations, was not so negative.
I think also it's worth saying, you know, it's not so much, there are not that many healthcare CEOs, there are not that many industries that are as universally understood as merchants of social murder, as of structural violence upon people. And it was as if the language appeared lit up within people that had never articulated it out loud. Like there are so few industries, maybe that is singularly the one that touches everyone, that harms nearly everyone. Like even when Charlie Kirk was murdered, that like I kept seeing reactions online, like leftists are celebrating. And I was like, all my friends were just like, yikes, this is going to get so bad, you know? Yeah. And I don't think we've turned into a culture where murder is sanctioned. I think that we have turned into a culture where private healthcare is is so profoundly immoral that people had a very particular reaction to Brian Thompson's
Right.
murder, right? Like I don't
Even Ben Shapiro's audience was like, no, we're on Luigi's side. And Ben Shapiro was shocked. Yeah, we've all had a story.
actually think necessarily that we have come to a place where targeted assassination is seen like, you know.
I wonder with something like murder, like the murder of a healthcare CEO, is it just a release valve for anger, or is it actually effective political action? Has anything shifted in terms of healthcare in this country because of that?
I felt enormously frustrated in the weeks following that every single, like I assumed, I don't know why I thought that.
It wasn't going to be a collective consciousness moment because people's bigotry got in the way. I know you keep thinking conservatives are going to get it. They're not going to get it. Conservatives are way too bigoted to get it. They have to melt away their bigotry before they begin to care about people who don't look like them, believe like them, live like them. Until they do that, they will never give a fuck. They would rather their own families go bankrupt, their own medical bills raise, before they help people who are different from them. You have to get them to understand their bigotry isn't helping them. It's not keeping them safe. And so until you do that, they just won't trust you. Because listen, to them, it is scary to rely on a neighbor to pay into a system if that neighbor lives differently from them because they don't believe in you. That's why Dave Ramsey has to promote this Christian healthcare thing. And like people pay into that. That's what my parents were doing for a while. They're like, oh, pay into this collective health insurance thing. And it's not health insurance even. It's a socialized medicine for Christians. And they'll pay your bills. I was like, why wouldn't you just do this for everybody? Why wouldn't you do this for everybody? And it's like, oh, but we can trust these people. They're Christian. Don't you understand? Their bigotry, they won't believe that they can trust people who are not like them. And that's the problem. Like that's what you need to deconstruct is your bigotry. You know what I mean?
Democrats would immediately take this up as pushing a sort of unified message towards universal health care. I don't know why I expected that. I don't know why I was disappointed that it didn't happen.
Elizabeth Warren did it to her credit.
Sure. But you know what I mean? I thought it would be, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I expected that. But I do not think that it was effective political action. I do think it was an effective act of political consciousness raising, but I don't think that's action at all. I do think it was served up.
Oh, and chat says, which is so fucking annoying. Like, how do you make them stop being racist? Well, first you have to accept that they want to be. That's why the collective consciousness, like trying to build coalition with racists to take down capitalism isn't going to work because you haven't accepted that they want to be. First, they want to be racist. They want to be homophobic. They want to be transphobic. They think it's what's correct. Second, they have to stop wanting to be racist. That's the hard part. You can't make a racist stop wanting to be racist until they're ready to be not racist, right? So you can't. And so you have to accept that you live in a world that would rather be racist than not be racist. Would rather be transphobic than not be transphobic. So they're not going to change until they want to. And that is the hardest part. But then you can think about, okay, now what do I do? Now focus. Okay, the world's not going to be different until it is. So how do I make sure that the world is a reflection of it as a whole and I am part of that whole? So then you have to change yourself. Okay, you have to exist in a reality where now we challenge ourselves. Okay, what does it mean to exist in the world? How do I exist in the world? How do I, you know what I mean? So like, then it becomes, okay, now what is the one thing I can control? Me. So then you do that. And then you work with people that are like-minded, like my audience. We're generally similar-minded. So we similarly give our money to the same people. We similarly promote the same people. We similarly advocate for the same thing, like not calling the police on someone stealing chips and feeding people who need food. And yes, there might be a repercussion to that, but there's a repercussion to simply existing. And here we are, right? Like, again, we are allowing billionaires, we're allowing Netanyahu, we're allowing these people to genocide a whole population in front of us. And God forbid we steal a bag of chips. It's like that meme, you know, trying to use your paper straw while the billionaires are literally bombing the world. You still should use a paper straw, but do not get it twisted that you need that there isn't some serious crisis happening and has always happened and will always keep happening. Until we deconstruct the big three: capitalism, racism, patriarchy. That big three, those are the big three. And until we do something about this, the world will stay the same. But these are the three. Because these connect to everything. And they're all equal. You cannot say capitalism is worse than racism or patriarchy. No, they're all the same and they're all working in tandem. Okay, they're working together.
For someone to just spike that ball over the other side. And that did not happen at all. But I think, and I find that kind of one of the most egregious missed opportunities.
And look, Habibis, we're all going to die anyways, right? I don't mean like philosophy channel here. We're all going to die anyway. You might as well die knowing you did the right thing. Okay, I would rather die knowing I did the right thing than try to live my minimal time on this planet evil just so I can make money, which is what billionaires are doing. Billionaires know there's nothing after this. We're all going to die and that's it. So they think, might as well take advantage of all of you. And I'm saying, hear me out. What if we know we have a limited time on the earth? So instead of taking advantage of people, we don't. They are morally bankrupt. Do not be morally bankrupt along with them. You are not taking advantage of Ralph's by stealing a bag of chips, but you might be contributing to your own harm by not figuring out the way to live that coincides with your values. But if you are in survival mode, you are not a bad person for stealing a bag of chips. Okay?
That we have seen in recent political history.
I go back and forth on this. Do I think that Democrats are failing? Are they feckless because they're just bad at politics, or is it something more indecent? And that their fecklessness is simply cover for their ulterior motives, which is participating in this grand design. They're funded by the same corporate lobbyists that Republicans are funded by, especially when it comes to private healthcare providers, and they have a vested interest in the continuation of private healthcare. There is consensus in American politics when it comes to the continuation of the private healthcare system, that the system must be private. This also touches on something that I wanted to address that you said. You were saying that like Americans are not used. So the continuation of the private healthcare system, that the system must be private. This also touches on something that I wanted to address that you said. You were saying that like Americans are not used to murder, right? Like Americans are not on board with murder. I kind of wanted to push back on that at the moment because I do think we are a profoundly violent culture. In some ways, Charlie Kirk's assassination was not unique. School shootings are happening all the time. And we have actually decided almost collectively that it's just another byproduct of American existence.
I mean, I know part of the issue is that Americans have lost a lot of trust in their government. I have this other statistic here that in 1964, 77% of Americans trusted the government. In 2025, 17% of Americans trust the government. And yet it feels like there's some political action that feels hope.
The question is, do you distrust the government more than you distrust your neighbors? I trust my neighbors more than I trust the government. I also only trust my neighbors with so much, given the amount of misogyny and transphobia that exists in the world. But most of these people, all these Republicans and conservatives who say they don't trust the government, are willing to overlook and ignore everything Trump has done, everything this administration has done, because they literally trust you less. They trust you less than they trust the government. And that's the disconnect. That's the disconnect. So they don't understand when leftists say reform the system, because what Republicans hear is trust the government. And I'm saying it's not the government if the government is for the people, by the people. But the dilemma is like this government, it's not for the people, by the people. And that's the dilemma. So they trust this government more than they trust you. That's why they'll never fight capitalism with you. That's why they won't fight their bigotry, because their bigotry makes them feel like they know what's up and you're actually the one who's always trying to trick them. This is why the zombie apocalypse hypothetical is really interesting. Like, what would you do in a zombie apocalypse? And all the people that say, oh, I'd kill everybody, I wouldn't trust anybody. Yeah, you're the problem. You're the problem. Because you, instead of having faith in your neighbor to build coalition with you, start, you know what I mean? And I get it if you're an individual minority, but if you are if you're a white man, as an example, and you're thinking, oh, the first thing I would do is like kill everybody, that's you engaging in patriarchal dominance to think that that is the solution.
Like Mamdani's policies for New York. Is this kind of change achievable through the mechanism of politics? Does it line up with Mamdani's politics?
Absolutely. I think that this global design of capital that we have seems like
oh, damn. Chat says, Americans are not supportive of murder. What does thank you for your service mean? I've never heard it said that way. Damn. I've never heard it said that way. Damn. I mean, literally, though. Ooh.
Behemoth that is impossible to defeat. And that obviously discourages a lot of people from taking action. One of the immediate reflections is the fact that we don't really have a democratic process any longer, and people don't even have that confidence in the democratic process because the wishes of the masses are rarely ever represented by our elected representatives. There are many different instances where this has become reality. There was an election cycle that just took place only 2 years ago, where there was a genocide that was happening alongside that, and that was the perfect opportunity to show Americans that your voices do matter, right? And yet, the Democratic Party chose not to lean into that real mobilization. 3,500 college campus protesters were arrested in the process. And now we write think pieces about why they're...
Okay, that's such a good example. How many people would not be able to process what I just said or what the chat just said? That thank you for your service is basically thank you for killing somebody on my behalf, which is a crazy thing to think about, right? Or thank you for destroying and destabilizing this country and this nation over here and killing their kids. You know, you're basically thanking them for murdering people, right? That is such a... You have to deconstruct the military. You have to start thinking about, like, what does it even mean to fight for your country? Remember that a lot of, like, and it's all over it's even happening, like, in Europe, where people are starting to talk about, like, young men needing to defend their country. And then people have arguments about, like, are you bad for leaving your country in a time of war when they need you to defend it? Like, people are shaming me. People are shaming me and saying, I can't believe you live in Europe when America is struggling or the U.S. is struggling. I'm sorry, do you want me to fight for America? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to kill somebody for America? Like, what do you want me to do? And I didn't even, by the way, I'm here because the immigration process moved that way for our family. The U.S. was not a place for us to immigrate, right? Like, we couldn't afford it. There's a lot of reasons I didn't choose the U.S. If I could have afforded it, that would have been a different conversation, okay? I can't afford the immigration process, right? Let alone living there and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? So when we have this conversation, it is very interesting, this idea of, like, oh, we want you to stay and fight. You want me to stay and kill people? Like, I hear you. I will protest. I will be with you. I don't want to have to kill my neighbor. So do we have a solution in which I'm not killing my neighbor? Now, I know you're thinking, yeah, but people tried that and they got killed anyways. Yeah, but that's because, and this is the part where I want you to understand this, you must be responsible. Yes, the corporations are at play here, but a lot of these conservatives are accountable and responsible for upholding the systems. A lot of people, minorities included, are responsible for upholding the systems. So whether or not we agree that billionaires are evil and they're taking advantage of us, they are exploiting our vulnerabilities, our selfishness, our evil. They are exploiting our own bigotry to work in their favor. But if you didn't have bigotry to exploit, then they couldn't do that. If you weren't somebody they could, you know what I'm saying? There is a part of this where you need to be responsible, where bigoted adults need to be held responsible for the way that they've allowed these people to take advantage of them because they won't deconstruct their own bigotry, right? That's why they use trans issues. That's why they talk about LGBT people. That's why they talk about abortions. Like, because you're not willing to deconstruct abortion, you are siding with people that are talking about taking away women's right to vote and equating what they've done to murder. I love how women are murdering their fetuses, but your sons in the military are saving America. Got it. So when your son in the military signs up to kill people from Iraq, they're heroes. But when your daughter takes an abortion pill after a rape, she's a murderer. Got it. Locked in. Got it. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that this isn't just billionaires. This is our parents. It's not just billionaires. It's our relatives and our neighbors. Billionaires are just the ones who got into billionaire status. A lot of our family and friends would do the same fucking thing if they had $1 billion too, right?
Aren't any college campus protesters? Where are the anti-war protesters? Over and over again. Well, it's like, we did it. The government succeeded in undermining the people's right to protest and the confidence that they have by refusing to listen to their demands. So they succeeded in that regard. However, while this system of global capital seems like a giant that is impossible to tackle, it's also very fragile.
Part of this too is like, part of the way that this feels weighted on both sides to me is that if the material conditions of an average person's life are ameliorated by a redistribution of wealth, then the conditions become more possible to take time and take risks and organize, right? Like, I think one of the reasons, obviously, that these things that people don't have time to attend multiple weekday meetings, weeknight meetings, organizing something in their community is because they have to work too long. They have to pick up their kids. They pay so much for childcare. There's no margin for anything. And I think you know, when you're talking about Mamdani, when there's a political program that is about improving, about giving people margin for individual pro-social, you know, civic action, then like, you know, a whole realm of possibilities and energy and ability and interest will begin to regrow. That won't be redirected into like, okay, here's my 7 minutes of downtime.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it scrolling or whatever, you know, not that I would know anything about that myself.
Not that any of us have used our 7 minutes of downtime to scroll.
And the thing with Zoran is that he does instill confidence in governance all of a sudden, because people for the first time ever see someone actually making that positive change, and it brings more confidence, and it creates an environment where people can demand more Zorans. That's why I always say I want to let 1,000 Zorans bloom all around the country. You know, because there are people like Zoran out there. And they're just waiting to be elected and waiting to come into a position of power and show the rest of the country that no, you can actually do things. You can do good governance.
Yeah, I love that. So a lot of what we've been talking about is taking what little power we have and trying to make it bigger, trying to take back some of the power for ourselves. And so I just wanted to end by asking you, what's one thing that you think should be okay, but currently isn't okay?
I mean, IP theft, stealing movies, things like that.
Okay.
One thing
I'm sorry, what was the question?
One thing that you think should be okay, but currently isn't okay.
One thing you think is okay, but isn't currently considered okay? I don't like that. I think that's a bad question. That question doesn't even make sense. What?
I mean, IP theft, stealing movies, things like that.
Okay.
Listen to it again.
What's one thing that you think should be okay, but currently isn't okay?
Everything? Like a lot of things? You know what I mean? Like I'm too autistic for this question. I'm so autistic. I can't answer this question. Right away, I was like, not having babies, getting abortions, getting tattoos, being a woman. I don't know. What are you asking me? You know? Yeah, drugs.
I mean, IP theft, stealing movies, things like that.
Okay.
One thing that should be
being plant-based. In a meat-eating world, being plant-based is like so fucking offensive to 98% of the population. So like, I don't know, being plant-based, like, I mean, all those things are okay, but not socially. I guess she means legally. So if she means legally, that still matters state to state. Like legally, what is something you think should be that isn't? I don't know. I really struggle with that question.
Be legal that isn't. It's interesting because I have to regularly
illegal.
explain
Something that's illegal. Yeah, drugs for sure would be a good one.
Stuff to a small child, which is, and have so thoroughly
Check that in my budget.
explained to her that some things are against the rules, but they're okay, and depending on who you are, and some things are not against the rules, but they're not okay. Like there's so many perfectly legal things I do regularly that I find mildly immoral, right? Like getting iced coffee in a plastic cup. Like I find that to be a profoundly selfish, immoral, collectively destructive action. You know, I think a lot of like I have taken so many planes for so many pleasure reasons for you know, I have acted in so many selfish ways that are not only legal, but they're sanctioned and they're unbelievably valorized culturally. And I think, I guess I don't really think of any laws. Maybe like things like blowing up a pipeline. Let's say that.
I really relate to what you were saying, Gia, of like, it is so hard to live ethically in an unethical society. And also there are so many moral compromises I make every day. I do
so many immoral things.
I'm constantly acting in ways that don't align with my belief system and constantly having to justify that from ordering in food when it's raining out. Like there are just like so many moments when I'm like, my comfort is more important than someone bringing.
You know, I think about that too. Like if we try, that's so funny because like that's a good question, actually. I think that's why I really love the way that I engage in now at the stage of my life, doing less bad every day. That's what I'm aiming for. Just be less bad every day. So example, we do not make deliveries when it's raining outside. Like I'm not going to ask a delivery person to be in the rain. And if I do, then you're tipping them 100%. Right? Like that's kind of the rule. If I'm going to make them drive in really bad conditions, then they get paid 100%. They have to get tipped 100% or something. Like you have to give back to the community that's willing to do the labor you're not willing to do in some capacity. Like, you know, in some way, like if you're not willing to get into your car to go get food or walk down the street and you're making them do it. So like, there's something to be said about this. And I do think like that's the problem is like, I'm not sure. I try to, be less bad every day to the best of my ability. And that's why I'm plant-based, because it's just so unnecessary for me to eat animals. And it just doesn't need to happen. You know, if it does need to happen, we can have that conversation. But at this stage, it doesn't need to happen. So I would like somebody to talk about that too. Like, I would like Hassan or somebody on this panel to talk about that too. Like, you notice how they're talking about plastic cups. So I saw this quote that said, "It's so interesting you guys are worried about plastic straws and plastic cups for the ocean and cutting up the plastic things for turtles, but you'll eat animals." And I'm like, yeah, why am I working so hard to protect ocean life, but I'm willing to eat it? Or like, why am I working so hard to think about animals accidentally, you know what I'm saying? Like, why don't I just stop eating animals? Like, why isn't that a part of my next step, you know?
Me food through the rain, and it doesn't feel good, but it is part of living. I mean, no one's making me do that, but it is part of the way in which we live in our society.
And it's so incentivized. I mean, it's like splashed all over the subway ads. It's just like, ladies, be selfish tonight, you know? Like, it's wild, yeah.
What is one thing that shouldn't be okay, but currently is?
So many things.
What's the question again? I'm going to need this written.
Thing that shouldn't be okay, but
you know, like it's wild. Yeah.
What is one thing that shouldn't be okay, but currently is?
Racism, homophobia, transphobia, patriarchal religions, rape. I had somebody in my chat today say hebephilia instead of pedophilia. And I was like, girl, please, kids are being raped. I don't care about the definitions. Like, this isn't a Reddit debate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm over it. You know what I mean? You know, so like not caring, you know, bigotry. Thank you.
So many things. Extraction of surplus labor value.
Honestly, like, wait, did she say but should be illegal?
Advised. I mean, it's like splashed all over the subway ads. It's just like,
that shouldn't
selfish tonight, you know? Like it's wild. Yeah.
What is one thing that shouldn't be okay, but currently is?
Shouldn't be okay, but currently is. Does she mean legally? Because I really struggle with this word legal. Because like, I would love to see the collective move in a direction that, as an example, like, so I don't know, like thought about ways to distribute funds in a more equitable way, right? So like, instead of giving memberships to Hassan, who's already a millionaire, give it to other small creators. And not even me, by the way, like even smaller creators, right? Like I already make enough money. I'm like I mean, if you want to be a member, you're gonna be a member. I don't even make six figures, but like if I, you know what I'm saying? But like he's already a multimillionaire. Let's give that fund to somebody else. Like I would think like cultural, like example, even leftists fall into this category of supporting the biggest person with the biggest name. So all of the funds still go to the biggest person with the biggest name, which is exactly how capitalism ends up working. So, you know, internalizing and embodying like distribution of funds, distribution of resources, distribution of attention. Not all small creators deserve attention, right? Some of them are not great, but like giving them to different people, giving things to different mom and pop shops. Like if you have a Ralph's to choose from, or a mom and pop shop, go to the mom and pop shop, even if it's a little bit more if you can. But again, within reason, however we do it, whatever works for everybody else, right? Like, so don't like kill yourself trying to do it. But I would love the questions to be a little bit differently phrased, because I am autistic. And so when I hear them, I take them quite literally, but they don't make sense to me. So like, it's interesting that she chose to phrase the question. See, I would suck at this interview. This interview would be hard for me because I'm like, what do you mean by that?
So many things. Extraction of surplus labor value.
Great, you went really silly with it. I appreciate that.
Exploitation.
Yeah, anything above Mao. I think New York should charge people to park on the street, which, I mean, I park on the street, but I think that's just that's an access to a large amount of public money that we should be taking.
Like, no! What do you mean? You want to charge people for parking? Maybe I don't understand New York, but why would you charge people for rent is crazy? Why would you want to charge people for parking?
Everyone who does street
You're
parking.
gonna get assassinated.
I
for that,
know.
Jay.
Yeah, you're gonna get don't. That's a horrible. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't put that into the universe.
I think it's true.
Someone's gonna fight you.
I think it's true. I also think private school should be mostly illegal.
Oh, I agree with that. That's a good one. Yes.
You are going to piss off all the drivers of New York City.
I know.
Yeah.
Public
Driving their kids to private school. Yeah, it's a huge problem. Yeah.
Okay, so because we have talked about so many different things, let's give like sort of a smash or pass, yes or no style summary. Steal from Whole Foods?
Sure.
Burn down your employer's warehouse?
No. My lawyers are telling me to answer in the negative.
Murder the CEO of a healthcare company?
Also, no.
No.
So we have a yes on steal from Whole Foods, microlooting. And
But the real yes is get a job there, spend 3 years being a SALT and organize a union.
which I think is a true better answer than justify your wheel of brie for yourself.
But that's fine too.
This interview was so fucking pretentious. This interview was very pretentious. I'm pretty sure these people's net worths are above most average people. This was pretty pretentious, man. I love watching rich people talk about what poor people should do. This was bad, guys. Who did this? This interview was stupid. I'm sorry. From a leftist perspective, this interview was dumb. The problem is you know who was mad about it? Fucking conservatives who can fucking, you know what I mean? They don't have any room to criticize. I think that's what was funny is all the criticism I've been seeing of this interview has mostly been from people that are just mad at Hassan for telling people to steal while supporting this administration that's literally kidnapping people off the streets. So I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm kind of shocked at the pretentiousness of this whole thing. Damn, bro. Listen, it's a struggle out there. You know, it's very hard to be a person. Do your best, do a little less bad every day, and one day at a time. You know? Man, this was rough. This was rough. Okay, that's it, girls. That's all I wanted to do today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. And shout out to all the new people in the community. I love that you're here. I think it's great. Look forward to seeing you throughout the week, throughout this year as we move forward. Remember to focus on the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, right? Remember to focus on the people who need help. And that's everyone. That's you. That's them. That's everyone. Everybody needs help, you know? And that's what I think our focus should be on. And I think the world would be a much better place, you know? Thank you, Chet says, congrats on 100K. Thank you. Appreciate that. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Maybe I'll get a plaque. Maybe I won't. But either way, happy to be here and very, very grateful to be able to do this full time. And I really am doing my dream job and I'm happy to be here. I'll see you tomorrow, right? Chet said, are you going to watch a new series on the members only side? I miss watching your BoJack. I did do all of BoJack if you want to see that for members. I'm making content that was requested by members right now. You guys asked me to do my weekly budget. I budget €50 a week for food or 58 USD a week for food for myself. And then I'm going to show you how I do it throughout my week, especially plant-based. And hopefully it will inspire you to kind of figure out your own budget. So we're doing that right now, talking about money, talking about economy stuff. Like, I understand. Listen, when I was young, guys, at my most struggle, I used to walk to work because I couldn't afford a car. And I used to pick quarters and pennies off the street until I got to work. And then I would use that to buy like $1.25, $1.50 of a croissant and a little chicken salad. And my coworkers would watch me at the self-checkout, put in all of my change, and they'd be like, oh my God, Brittany, you're so good at saving. Brittany, you're so frugal. Like, oh my gosh, Brittany, like, I think it's so cute. You're getting a croissant chicken sandwich. They didn't realize I wasn't eating. And then of course I went through the most stressful year of my life with horrible things happening. Then I lost so much weight because I couldn't afford anything. There was a point in my life when I couldn't understand how to feed myself, being for the first time really outside of my parents' home, that I eat peanut butter for like 2 weeks straight, just peanut butter, which is why I don't. And I can't eat peanut butter to this day. Like, very seldom can I have peanut butter because that's all I could eat, because I didn't understand like why I didn't have money and why I couldn't feed myself. So learning to feed yourself is a skill. And I hope to pass any of that wisdom on to you, because if I could go back to young Brittany now, I'd be like, this is how you feed yourself on a single person's budget, in a house where you don't have a stove, in a place where you just have a mini fridge. So this week I'm doing like cooking on a stove, but I was thinking about, what if I didn't have a stove? Like, how would I feed myself and budget my food if I only had a microwave at home, or if I didn't even have a microwave? I'd probably do a microwave, because I did have a microwave in my room when I was renting a room. And I was like, what would I do? Like, I wasn't allowed to use the kitchen, so I had to like figure it out. And it was really hard to figure it out, you know? So anyways, Chaz said, is it okay if we have a running gag, Britt being a crime syndicate boss? Probably, right? Can I get in trouble for that? Yeah, probably. That's probably funny. You know, that's probably a safe gag or a joke or a meme in the community. You know what I mean? Anyways, he wants some rotisserie chicken. That's crazy. Like, I cannot believe this idea that this chatter, God bless him, was like, oh, now you're running a criminal activity. What are you, the police? Bro, are you the fucking cops? Jesus Christ. That's cop talk. Like, that's cop language. You know what I mean? People coming together and deciding that I'm a criminal entity. Girl, You know what I mean? What a ridiculous sentiment. But you know haters are gonna run with that. Watch, you're gonna start seeing hater videos. Brittany ran a crime syndicate in fucking Seattle where she fed her employees rotisserie chicken parts. What a ridiculous world we live in. Like, you know what I mean? And I bet they were autistically well-intentioned, but girl, that's what I'm saying. Even the best well-intentioned people say the stupidest fucking shit because the propaganda is so seeped into their body. Just listen to what you just said. We're talking about underprivileged, struggling kids in a city where they can't even pay fucking rent. And somebody sits there and figures out a solution that's the best, most harm reduction solution. And you're like, you don't care about us. Bro, did you not eat tonight? Did you go to prison? Relax. You know what I mean? Like, come on. You know? And God knows I would have been the one who was mostly like, you know what I'm saying? It's just so stupid. You know? Oh, and by the way, they're finally bringing it to the forefront. I got to look into the details of this. I think it's in New York, actually. I think it's Zoran. They want to make it so hot foods count on food stamps. How stupid is that? How stupid is that? Like, you won't let people get a rotisserie chicken. Like, you're so fucking greedy that you won't let people on food stamps get a rotisserie chicken. So I hope that's, I think it was Zoran. I got to double check, but I hope it works out. I hated working in the deli. I hated knowing that I couldn't let people get warm food. Like, how can I not give you warm food? Like, how fucked up is that, bro? The system is so fucked. The system is so disgusting. I'm so sick of watching poor people, any people, all people, not be able to feed themselves while billionaires are so fucking gluttonous with everything they do. And then somebody is in the fucking chat being like, stealing is stealing. Come on now. Come on. Anyways, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Be kind to yourselves and others and all that jazz. Okay, bye. Love you in a non-parasocial way. Be healthy. Love you. Bye.